The numbers swim before my eyes, each digit a betrayal carved in digital ink. $23,000. Monthly transfers like clockwork, draining away our future while I scrimped and saved, counting every penny at the grocery store. I'm Kiera, and I've spent 25 years believing in a lie named Nathan Thompson. The bank statement trembles in my hands as I stand in Nathan's study, the leather of his precious antique chair still warm from his body. He'd rushed out 10 minutes ago, claiming an emergency meeting. Another lie, probably. The paper wasn't meant to be found, tucked behind the false bottom of his desk drawer that I discovered while searching for a spare USB cable. Mom! Mia's voice floats up from downstairs. Did you find that cable? I shove the statement into my pocket, my fingers numb. Coming, honey. The walk downstairs feels like wading through molasses. Mia sits at the kitchen counter, laptop open, dark circles under her eyes from studying for her residency exams. She looks up and her smile fades. What's wrong? Nothing. The word tastes like ash. Just tired. She doesn't believe me. She's always been too perceptive for her own good. Just like she didn't believe Nathan's excuses about missing her graduation for a business emergency. My phone buzzes. A text from Nathan. Working late. Don't wait up. Of course he is. Probably with Oliver Green, his partner in crime. I've always hated how Oliver looked at me during dinner parties, like he was keeping a secret joke at my expense. Now I know why. I grip the counter until my knuckles turn white. $23,000 a month. $276,000 a year. For how many years? While I postponed dental work, while Liam took out student loans, while Mia worked double shifts at the coffee shop during pre-med. Mom! Mia touches my arm. You're scaring me. I force myself to breathe, to smile, to act normal while my world crumbles around me. Just thinking about dinner, sweetie. How does pasta sound? She studies me with those sharp doctor's eyes of hers. I'll help you cook. As I reach for the pasta box, my hand brushes against the statement in my pocket. The paper crinkles, a quiet sound that feels like thunder in my ears. Nathan thinks he's so clever, so superior. He's always treated me like I'm naive, too focused on family to understand the real world of business and money. Well, he's about to learn just how wrong he is about me. Nathan strolls in at midnight, reeking of expensive scotch and arrogance. I'm waiting in his precious study, the bank statement spread flat on his mahogany desk like a murder weapon. You're up late. His smile freezes when he sees what I'm holding. Have you been going through my things? $23,000. My voice doesn't shake. Not anymore. Every month for God knows how long. Where is it going, Nathan? He loosens his tie, buying time. I've seen this routine before, the casual dismissal, the patronizing explanation. Business investments, Kiera. Nothing you need to worry about. Nothing I need to worry about? The laugh that escapes me sounds foreign. Like I didn't need to worry about Liam's student loans? Or Mia working herself sick through medical school? Don't be dramatic. He moves to pour himself another drink. The kids are fine. The kids are in debt while you're hemorrhaging money into some secret account. I stand, my chair scraping against the hardwood. With Oliver Green's name on it. The crystal tumbler stops halfway to his mouth. For a split second, something like fear flickers across his face. You've misunderstood. Have I? Because I called the bank today. Pretended to be your secretary. I savor the way his shoulders tense. They were very helpful. Especially about those transfers to the Cayman Islands. You had no right. I had every right. The words explode out of me. 25 years, Nathan. I've given you 25 years of my life while you've been stealing from our family. Heavy footsteps in the hallway make us both turn. Liam stands in the doorway, his face pale. What's going on? Nathan's mask slides back into place. Nothing, son. Your mother's just upset about some business matters she doesn't understand. Don't. I pull out my phone, fingers trembling as I pull up the photos I took of the statements. Show him, Nathan. Show our son how you've been lying to all of us. Liam steps closer, peering at the screen. His jaw tightens. He has his father's features but none of his deceit. Dad. It's complicated. Nathan starts, but Liam cuts him off. Is this why you said you couldn't help with my tuition? His voice cracks. While you were sending millions offshore? Both of you need to calm down. Nathan's tone hardens. This is business, not. This is family, I interrupt. And you've betrayed all of us. The silence that follows feels like a living thing, coiling around us. Nathan looks between us, realizing he's losing control of the narrative he's carefully maintained for years. We'll discuss this tomorrow, he says finally, heading for the door. When everyone's thinking clearly. But as he walks away, I know there won't be any more discussions. There's nothing left to say. Only actions matter now, and I'm done being the understanding wife who looks the other way. The laptop screen casts a sickly glow across my hands as I scroll through Nathan's emails. 3 hours of methodically trying password combinations, our wedding date, the kids' birthdays, his mother's maiden name, before I cracked it with Kingmaker 55. His ego always was his weakness. What I find makes my stomach turn. Hundreds of exchanges between Nathan and Oliver spanning years. Their words drip with condescension, discussing their simple wives, their brilliant schemes. The latest email chain makes my blood freeze. Kay's getting suspicious. Might need to accelerate the timeline. N. Too risky. Stick to the plan. 2 more months and it won't matter. Oh. She's been asking about the accounts. N. Handle it. You always do. Oh. My phone buzzes, Mia calling. I ignore it, diving deeper into the correspondence. Each revelation hits like a physical blow. The money wasn't just going offshore. It was funding a hostile takeover of Oliver's company. They're planning to strip it bare, fire hundreds of employees, including Oliver's own wife Sarah. The doorbell rings, startling me. Through the study window, I see Oliver's Mercedes in our driveway. My heart pounds as I quickly close the laptop, but not before forwarding key emails to my personal account. Kiera. Oliver's voice carries from downstairs. Nathan asked me to stop by. Of course he did. I smooth my hair, straighten my spine, and descend the stairs. Oliver stands in our foyer, all expensive suit and practiced charm. The sight of him makes me sick. Nathan's not here, I say, keeping my voice steady. I know. He steps closer, lowering his voice. He told me about last night. About your concerns. Did he tell you I know about the Cayman accounts? I watch his face carefully. About Project Kingdom? The slight widening of his eyes confirms everything. Kiera, you're misunderstanding. Save it. I pull out my phone, showing him the forwarded emails. Does Sarah know what you're planning? His mask slips, revealing something ugly underneath. Be careful, Kiera. You're playing with fire. No, Oliver. I'm done playing at all. I move toward the door. Now get out of my house before I call Sarah myself. He grabs my arm, fingers digging in. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Let go. My voice doesn't waver. Or I'll scream and Mia upstairs will call the police. Your choice. The moment stretches like wire about to snap. Then he releases me, straightening his jacket with a forced smile. We're trying to help you, he says softly. Remember that when everything falls apart. As I watch his Mercedes disappear down the street, my phone buzzes again. A text from Nathan. We need to talk. Bringing dinner home. I look down at the bruises forming on my arm and think. Yes, we certainly do. Sarah Green's call comes at 3 in the morning, her voice raw with fury. Did you know? I sit up in the guest bedroom where I've been sleeping since the confrontation. About what? The company. The layoffs. She chokes back what might be a sob or a laugh. Oliver's been planning to destroy everything my father built. And your husband's helping him. My throat tightens. Sarah, don't pretend you didn't know. You wives always know, don't you? We just pretend we don't. The accusation stings because it's partly true. I'd suspected Nathan's dishonesty for years but chose willful blindness. I only found out recently. I have proof, emails, documents. Silence crackles across the line. Then, show me. We meet at a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. Sarah looks elegant even in crisis, her silver hair perfectly styled. But her hands shake as she reads through the printouts. 200 people, she whispers. That's how many families they're planning to destroy. There's more. I slide across a USB drive. Financial records showing where the money's really going. They're not just dismantling the company, they're stealing its patents. Her perfectly manicured nails close around the drive. What do you want? What? For this information. Everything has a price. Her eyes, so like Oliver's, study me coldly. Is it money? Protection? I want justice. She laughs harsh and hollow. Justice is for people who can afford good lawyers. People like our husbands. Then we'll have to be smarter than them. I lean forward. The company board meets next week. What if? The diner's door chimes. Nathan walks in, followed by Oliver. My heart stops. Well, Oliver says, his voice deadly quiet. Isn't this cozy? Sarah straightens, sliding the USB drive into her purse. Just having coffee with a friend. A friend who's trying to destroy our families? Nathan's hand closes around my shoulder, too tight to be affectionate. Let's go home, Kiera. I shrug off his grip. Touch me again and I'll scream. You've already done enough damage. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Don't make this worse. Worse than stealing from your children? Sarah stands, her chair scraping back. Worse than betraying everything my father trusted you with, Oliver? The other diners are staring now. Oliver steps closer to his wife, voice low. Sarah, darling. Don't darling me. She turns to me. I'll be in touch, Kiera. Soon. As she walks out, head high, Nathan leans down to whisper in my ear. You have no idea what you've started. But looking at the fear beneath his anger, I think maybe I finally do. Mia's residency badge gets us into the hospital's empty conference room at midnight. She spreads the documents across the table while Liam paces by the door. 200 families, Mia mutters, scanning the layoff lists, including Dr. Chen's entire research department. Dad's really going to destroy all these people's lives? Liam's voice cracks. For what? I slide Sarah's latest message across the table. Patents. The research department developed a breakthrough cancer treatment. Nathan and Oliver plan to sell it to the highest bidder after they gut the company. That's why they pushed me away from oncology. Mia's hands clench. They knew I'd figure it out. A noise outside makes us freeze. Footsteps pass, fade away. We've been jumping at shadows since Nathan's threat at the diner, but this feels different. The walls are closing in. The board meeting's tomorrow, I say. Sarah's ready to expose everything, but Dad will destroy her first. Liam stops pacing. You've seen how he operates. We need something bigger. Mia pulls up her phone, showing us a news article. Remember Dad's friend who died last year? The one developing the original treatment. My blood runs cold. Dr. Harrison's accident? I pulled his autopsy report. She swallows hard. The brake lines were cut. The silence that follows feels like a physical weight. I think of Nathan's casual cruelty, his dismissal of others' lives as mere obstacles. How much of the man I married was ever real? Mom. Liam touches my arm. Whatever you're planning, we're with you. No. I stand abruptly. I won't put you two at risk. We're already at risk. Mia's voice hardens. Dad made sure of that when he chose money over family. My phone buzzes, Oliver's number. The text makes my heart stop. Nathan knows about the meeting. Coming for the files tonight. Get out. As if on cue, heavy footsteps echo down the hall. Multiple sets. The service stairs, Mia whispers, already gathering documents. They lead to the parking garage. We move quickly, silently. But at the stairwell door I pause. Take the evidence to Sarah. I'll hold them off. Mom, no. Go. I push the files into Liam's hands. I've spent 25 years letting that man control us through fear. Not anymore. The footsteps grow closer. Mia grabs my arm, tears in her eyes. Promise you'll be careful. I kiss her forehead, then Liam's. I promise to finish this. Now go. As my children disappear down the stairs, I turn to face the approaching shadows. For the first time in years, I'm not afraid. I'm angry. And anger burns hotter than fear. Nathan's security team corners me in the hospital corridor, their footsteps echoing off sterile walls. But it's Oliver who steps forward first, hands raised in mock surrender. Let's be reasonable, Kiera. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Where are the files? Gone. I lean against the wall, buying time. Just like Dr. Harrison's break lines. Nathan emerges from the shadows, his face twisted. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? 200 families, Nathan. Plus one murdered doctor who threatened to expose you. Harrison was unstable. Nathan moves closer. He would have destroyed everything we built. You mean everything you stole? My laugh sounds hollow. From your family, from Sarah's father, from all those researchers working to save lives. Oliver checks his watch. The board meets in 6 hours. Tell us where Mia and Liam took the documents. The mention of our children makes Nathan flinch. Good. Let him feel something real for once. They're safe, I say. Unlike Dr. Harrison. Enough. Nathan grabs my arm. This ends now. Call them. Or what? You'll arrange another accident. His grip tightens. I'm trying to protect you. Like you protected Harrison? I wrench away. Or like you protected our children while stealing their future? The future I built for them was built on lies. My voice echoes down the corridor. Every sacrifice I made, every dream I gave up, while you and Oliver played gods with people's lives. Oliver's phone buzzes. His face pales. Sarah's called an emergency board meeting. Now. Nathan's mask cracks. For a moment, I see the desperate man beneath the facade. What have you done? What you taught me to do. I straighten my spine. Whatever it takes to win. The punch comes from nowhere. Pain explodes across my temple as I hit the floor. Through blurring vision, I see Oliver restraining Nathan. She's ruining everything. Nathan struggles. We have to stop. Security cameras, Oliver hisses. Think. They drag me into an empty room. My head throbs as Nathan paces, unraveling before my eyes. Where are they meeting? He grabs my shoulders. Tell me. I taste blood but manage a smile. You'll find out soon enough. His phone rings, Mia's ringtone. As he answers, his face drains of color. The police. His voice shakes. What do you mean, the police? I close my eyes, letting the darkness creep in. I might not walk away from this, but neither will Nathan. And somehow that makes everything worth it. The emergency board meeting erupts into chaos when Oliver stands, hands shaking. I can't do this anymore. Nathan freezes mid-speech, his presentation about company restructuring forgotten. Oliver, sit down. Harrison wasn't unstable. Oliver's voice carries across the boardroom. He discovered what we were doing with the research funds. Nathan arranged the accident. Sarah, at the head of the table, goes perfectly still. The bruise on my temple throbs as I watch her process the betrayal. That's ridiculous, Nathan snarls. Oliver's been under tremendous stress. I have proof. Oliver pulls out a phone. I recorded everything. Because I knew someday Nathan would turn on me too. The recording plays. Nathan's voice, cold and calculating, discussing Harrison's problem. My children's inheritance, discussed like collateral damage. 2 decades of friendship reduced to leverage and lies. You recorded me? Nathan lunges, but security guards step forward. After everything I did for you? You did nothing for anyone but yourself. I stand steady despite my injuries. Tell them about the offshore accounts, Nathan. About the patents you plan to steal. I built this company. He turns to the board members. Everything I did was for growth, for progress. For power. Sarah's voice cuts through his protests. My father trusted you both. And you killed his friend, tried to steal his life's work. The police have everything, Mia announces from the doorway. She and Liam enter, followed by detectives. Including Dr. Harrison's real autopsy report. Nathan's facade finally shatters. He looks at our children, really looks at them, perhaps for the first time in years. I was protecting our future. No. Liam's voice shakes. You were destroying it. As the detectives step forward, Oliver slumps in his chair. I should have stopped him years ago. After Sarah's father died, Nathan changed. Everything became about control, about winning at any cost. You were no better, Sarah snaps, but there's pain beneath her anger. Nathan makes one last desperate move, reaching for me. Kiera, please. Everything I did was for us. I step back, watching the man I once loved dissolve into a stranger. No, Nathan. Everything you did was for yourself. And now you've lost everything that actually mattered. The detectives read him his rights. As they lead Nathan away, he keeps looking back, as if waiting for someone to wake him from this nightmare. But there's no waking up from truth. Oliver rises slowly. I'll cooperate fully. The company, the patents, they belong to Sarah now. As they should have all along. It's not a perfect victory. Some wounds never heal completely. But watching Nathan disappear through those doors, I feel something I haven't felt in years, free. The letter arrives on a crisp autumn morning, hand-delivered by Sarah's assistant. Oliver's familiar handwriting covers 3 pages, but it's the photograph tucked inside that stops my breath. Nathan, maybe 20 years younger, standing beside a man I recognize as Sarah's father. They're both smiling, genuine and bright, holding up some kind of research award. I thought you should know, Oliver writes, that Nathan wasn't always the man who betrayed us. The pressure to succeed, to prove himself worthy of Robert Greene's trust, it twisted something inside him. When Robert died, Nathan became obsessed with controlling everything, everyone. As if power could fill the void left by genuine connection. I set the letter down, watching through my kitchen window as Mia helps Liam unload boxes from his car. He's moving back home while finishing law school, determined to help other families navigate corporate fraud. Mia's residency keeps her busy, but she makes time for weekly dinners, filling our home with stories of lives saved and hope restored. My phone buzzes, a text from Sarah. The board approved the new research grant program, named after Dr. Harrison. 200 families will keep their jobs, their purpose, their dignity. It's not redemption. Nothing can redeem Nathan's choices, but it's something like justice. The doorbell rings. I open it to find Oliver, looking older and smaller without his expensive suit and practiced smile. I'm leaving for London, he says quietly. The authorities agreed to limited immunity in exchange for my testimony. I wanted to apologize one last time. For which part? All of it. But mostly for watching Nathan destroy your family and doing nothing to stop it. I study him, this man who chose loyalty to the wrong cause for so long. Why did you finally speak up? Because you reminded me what real strength looks like. He glances past me at my children in the kitchen. It's not about control or power. It's about protecting what matters, no matter the cost. I don't forgive him, not fully, but I understand him better now. Goodbye, Oliver. After he leaves, I join my children in the kitchen. Mia's chopping vegetables while Liam sets the table, their comfortable banter filling the space where silence used to live. The bruise on my temple has faded, but the lessons remain. Sometimes justice wears the face of mercy, and sometimes revenge looks like letting go. Mom! Mia holds out a knife. Want to help with dinner? I take it, feeling its weight in my hand. Not a weapon anymore, just a tool for building something new. Always.
At just 18, my granddaughter Lily came home with her boyfriend, Mike, to share unexpected news. She was pregnant. While I wanted to celebrate her happiness, worry clouded my thoughts. Neither Lily nor Mike had jobs, and raising a baby requires significant financial stability. What were their plans for the future? My husband, James, decided to step in and offer Mike a job at his company. Come work with me, he told Mike. This way, you, Lily, and the baby won't have to worry about your future. James not only hired Mike but also extended job offers to Mike's parents, who were unemployed at the time. He believed helping them get on their feet would ease the challenges ahead. Unfortunately, our hopes were soon shattered. When Lily went into labor, she called Mike, only to be met with an unthinkable response. I can't make it, he said nonchalantly. I'm on vacation in Las Vegas with my parents. It'd be a waste to leave now. You handle it. We were stunned by his thoughtless attitude. James's fury was immediate and decisive. He cut ties with Mike and his family, knowing their actions had consequences they weren't prepared for. This was not the first time life had thrown us a curveball. My name is Sarah Jones, and I'm a 67-year-old grandmother raising Lily after the loss of her mother, Emily. Emily, my only daughter, was strong-willed and fiercely independent. A few years before Lily's birth, Emily found herself pregnant after a breakup. When we urged her to inform the father, she adamantly refused. I'll raise the baby on my own, she said. Despite our concerns, James supported her decision. If you have a reason for not telling him, we'll stand by you, he assured her. Emily promised to reach out when she was ready, but fate had other plans. On her due date, she went to the hospital alone. determined to bring her baby into the world. Tragically, she didn't survive childbirth. James and I were devastated. Our vibrant, spirited daughter was gone, but amidst the heartbreak, we found solace in her newborn daughter, Lily. Honoring Emily's wishes, we adopted Lily and promised to raise her with all the love and care she deserved. Raising Lily came with its challenges. Times had changed since we'd raised Emily, and parenting a child as older caregivers wasn't easy. Yet, Lily's strength and resilience mirrored her mother's. She embraced us as her parents, never letting anyone's judgment about our age affect her. One day, Lily wrote a heartfelt letter for a school assignment. In it, she expressed her gratitude for us and her deep connection to Emily, whom she considered her guardian angel. Reading her words, James and I couldn't hold back our tears. Years passed, and Lily thrived. She graduated from high school, her determination as unyielding as Emily's had been. "Mom's probably bragging about me in heaven," Lily joked at her graduation. "She absolutely is," I replied, smiling through tears. As Lily entered vocational school, she began dreaming of her future, including finding someone special to share it with. "If I meet someone, you'll be the first to know," she promised us. 6 months later, Lily came home and asked, "Is it okay if I bring my boyfriend over tonight?" We were eager to meet him but couldn't ignore Lily's unease. That evening, as I prepared dinner, my nerves were on edge. Finally, Lily arrived, a young man at her side. "Hello," he said casually. James introduced himself. "I'm Lily's father. Nice to meet you. I'm Mike," he replied with a relaxed air that caught us off guard. As we sat down to dinner, Mike began sharing his story. Something about him didn't sit right, but we listened, hopeful for Lily's sake. Mike introduced himself with an easy smile. "I'm a part-time worker, but I'm working on becoming a musician," he explained. He revealed that he was a street performer with no steady income, while Lily was supporting his dream of becoming a professional musician. Listening to him, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. His future seemed so uncertain, and I struggled to see how their relationship could provide the stability Lily and the baby would need. James wore the same worried expression as we both quietly observed the young couple. Then, Lily dropped a bombshell. "There's something else I need to tell you. I'm pregnant." James and I froze, staring at her in disbelief. "Wait, is that true?" I asked. "Yeah," Lily said softly. "I'm already a few months along." The room was thick with silence before James spoke up, his tone filled with concern. "So what's the plan moving forward, Mike? How are you going to support the baby?" He bombarded them with questions, voicing everything I was thinking but hadn't yet said. Lily clasped her hands together, pleading, "I want Mike to keep pursuing his music career, but I also think he should get a steady job. Dad, could you hire him at your company, please?" Mike, however, looked indifferent, glancing down at his nails as if the conversation didn't concern him. "Dad's company allows for side jobs, and I don't want Mike to give up on his dream," Lily continued, "but we need stability too. Please, Dad." James leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Mike, do you even want to work? Can you handle a job in sales or office work?" "Yeah, sure, I can do a job," Mike replied casually, his lack of enthusiasm deepening our doubts. Still, James pressed on. "Street performing every day must be hard, right? Talking to strangers, getting tips, that's harder than sales, isn't it?" Mike added that he had taken computer classes in high school, assuring us he was qualified. Despite our reservations, James reluctantly agreed. "All right, I'll give you a chance," James said firmly, "but you have to work hard, for Lily and the baby." "No problem," Mike replied with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Just when I thought the conversation was over, Mike added, "Oh, and could you hire my parents too? My dad just quit his job, and my mom wants to start working now." James hesitated but ultimately agreed, always wanting to help. "All right," he said, "but remember, you need to take care of Lily and make her happy." "Thanks, man," Mike said, giving James a firm handshake before leaving quickly to share the news with his parents. That night, as James and I discussed the situation privately, he revealed his real motive for hiring Mike and his family. "By keeping Mike at the company, we can avoid another situation like we had with Emily," he said. "I want to make sure we stay connected for Lily's sake." "You're right," I agreed. "We need to ensure they're taken care of." The following week, Mike and his parents started working at the company while Lily continued attending vocational school. Soon, the topic of where they would live came up. "We should move into my parents' house," Mike suggested. "No way, let's buy a place of our own," Lily countered. "We can't afford that yet," Then let's wait until we've saved up. Their disagreement was going nowhere, so I stepped in. How about you two live separately until the baby is born? I suggested. That way, Mike can focus on work and saving up, and once the baby arrives, you'll have enough for an apartment. That sounds like a great idea, Lily said, looking relieved. What do you think, Mike? Sure, that works for me, Mike replied nonchalantly. With the plan set, they agreed to save money wisely. James handed Mike a company credit card for work expenses, reminding him to bring his ID the next day to finalize the paperwork. Don't forget to tell your parents, too, James added. Got it, Mike said, grinning. Man, I've never had a credit card before. This is going to be awesome. Their casual exchange made me hopeful that they were settling into their roles, but little did I know it was just the beginning of Mike's reckless behavior. Later that evening, Mike mentioned he had things to do and left quickly. Lily seemed upset. Why can't you come over more often, even when there's nothing specific going on? She asked. I'm busy, Lily. Work and music take up a lot of my time. It's a waste to come over if there's no reason, he replied with a laugh, his dismissive tone stinging. Lily's voice quivered. Normally, wouldn't you just want to see me? I tried to reassure her. Maybe he's overwhelmed with his new responsibilities, but deep down, I shared her worries. Over the next few months, Mike only visited twice a month at most. Lily often complained about how she saw him more when they were just dating. James and I did our best to support her emotionally, but the strain was beginning to show. One day, Lily came to us with renewed hope. I've been keeping up with Mike on social media, she said. It seems like his music is starting to take off. He's getting more attention, so maybe this will all pay off. I need to support him more now, especially since he's still working, too. I admired her optimism, though my concerns remained. By the time Lily reached her 8th month of pregnancy, her belly was large, and she was eagerly preparing for the baby. One morning over breakfast, Lily suddenly gasped. I think my water just broke, she said, her face pale with fear. The entire family sprang into action. Quick, we need to call the hospital, James shouted. Lily, don't move too much, I said, holding her hand. As we rushed to the hospital, I sat beside Lily in the car, rubbing her back and whispering words of comfort. It's going to be okay, we're almost there. Lily nodded, her voice trembling. The doctor said the baby was in a breech position last time. If that hasn't changed, I might need a C-section. Her words hung in the air as we pulled into the hospital driveway, bracing ourselves for what was to come. I texted Mike to let him know my water had broken, but I hadn't heard back yet. Don't worry, I assured Lily. I'll explain everything to Mike if needed, he'll be here soon. We arrived at the hospital, and after a checkup, the doctor confirmed the baby was still breech and a C-section would be necessary. I called James, who was waiting in the car, and then tried to call Mike. No matter how many times I dialed, there was no answer. What is he doing? Shouldn't he be on his way by now? Maybe he's driving and can't answer. I left a voicemail and waited anxiously. 30 minutes passed, then 40, still nothing from Mike. Lily's about to have her baby, I muttered, pacing nervously. Let's try calling him again. Finally, Mike answered. Where are you? Lily's water broke, and she's about to have a C-section. Mike's voice was calm, far too casual for the situation. Oh, I'm in Vegas with my parents. We're at a casino. I know Lily's about to give birth, but can you handle it for me? I'm really busy right now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What? You need to get on a plane and come back immediately, your child is about to be born. He sighed, irritated. Look, I didn't even want a kid in the first place. I'm finally getting somewhere with my music. I had a great street performance last night, got more tips than ever. Right now, I'm doing something nice for my parents, so there's no way I can leave. This is your child, Mike, you need to be here. He huffed dismissively. I don't need this right now, just take care of it, okay? The line went dead. He hung up. When I tried to call back, I realized he'd blocked my number. James, who'd been listening, wore a dark expression. What did he say? I shook my head in disbelief. Unbelievable. James stood, his jaw clenched. I've got some business to take care of. You stay with Lily, I'll be back soon. Without another word, he left the hospital. Minutes later, a nurse emerged with good news. Lily has safely delivered the baby. The little one will need to stay in the neonatal unit for a while, but everything went well. The baby was small but perfect. I peered into the incubator at the tiny, fragile body, overwhelmed with emotion. I took in the sight of those delicate hands and feet. For a moment, I forgot Mike's cruel behavior. When Lily was awake and ready, I reunited with her. "How's the baby? Cute, right?" she asked, exhausted but smiling. "Yes, very cute. She looks just like you. You did an amazing job, Lily. I'm so proud of you." Lily's smile faded, replaced by concern. "Where's Mike? Did he come?" I hesitated. After everything she'd just been through, I didn't want to add to her pain. "Is he off with his parents again? Couldn't he come?" I sighed, realizing I couldn't hide the truth. "He said he's in Vegas with his parents, and he can't leave right now." Lily's face fell. She chuckled bitterly, but tears welled in her eyes. "I kind of figured. I had a feeling he wouldn't be here for me or the baby. I even told him to stay close, just in case, but deep down, I guess I knew." Her voice broke as tears spilled over. "He promised he'd be here." I rushed to her side, hugging her tightly as she sobbed. "It's okay, Lily, let it out. You're not alone, I'm here for you." Once Lily settled, I stepped out of the room. James had returned, looking calmer than before. "How's Lily, and the baby?" he asked. "They're both okay. The baby's in the neonatal unit, but everything went well." "Good to hear," James replied, his tone darkening. "But Mike, I just can't believe what he did." "I know, but don't worry, I'll deal with it." "Handled it? What do you mean?" I asked cautiously. James gave me a reassuring smile, though something glimmered in his eyes. "I'll explain when we get home. Just trust me, he won't get away with abandoning Lily and the baby." The next morning, Lily sent us a photo of the baby. "She's getting stronger every day. I can't wait to bring her home." "She's so precious, Lily," I replied. Not long after, Lily called us again, sounding amused. "Mike just called me. He's freaking out. His credit card stopped working, and he's been getting weird emails on his work phone." James and I exchanged knowing glances. "What's going on?" Lily asked, laughing. "It's simple," James said. "Mike's been cut off. He's fired, and his corporate credit card has been deactivated." Lily gasped. "Wait, what? He's fired?" James nodded firmly. "He crossed too many lines. I had to make a decision." Lily laughed again, the relief clear in her voice. "Oh my God, that explains why he sounded so panicked." We all chuckled, imagining Mike's shock. Over the following days, things moved quickly. Lily filed for divorce, supported every step of the way. Mike called a few more times, but Lily ignored him. When he finally reached out to James, he was desperate. "You can't just fire me. I have bills to pay. I'm trying to make it as a musician." James didn't waver. "You abandoned your responsibilities as an employee and as a father. Actions have consequences. Mike, this conversation is over." Lily sighed with relief when we told her. "I can't believe it's really happening. I'm free." "Yes, you are," I said. "And now you can focus on what really matters, raising your baby and building a new life." Over the months, Lily grew stronger, her confidence shining. When the baby was finally ready to come home, we prepared everything, creating a cozy nursery and filling it with love. "It's perfect," Lily said, holding her baby close. "You're doing great, Lily," I told her. "Thanks, Mom. I'm going to make sure she knows how loved she is, every single day." As I watched her rock her baby to sleep, I knew this was the start of a beautiful new chapter, one filled with strength, hope, and the unwavering love of family. "Why don't you take a break?" Robert's kind words caught me off guard, bringing tears to my eyes. When was the last time anyone had shown genuine concern for me? His words were a wake-up call. I needed to escape this toxic in-law nightmare. It was time for payback. "My name is Sarah. I'm 38 years old, and I'm now happily living in a shared house." Some people raise their eyebrows when they hear that. "I could never imagine living with strangers," they say, but after my divorce, I found living alone unbearable. Sharing a house with strangers? Surprisingly, it brought me comfort. There are worse families out there, believe me, I know. It all started 10 years ago when my husband, Ken, and I began our newlywed life in a cozy apartment. Ken had an unmarried sister, Nancy, and their mother, Amelia, who often dropped by uninvited. "Ken, you got married before me, huh?" Nancy would tease, her tone laced with bitterness. Amelia, ever the instigator, added fuel to the fire with her passive-aggressive comments. Nancy tried to brush it off, saying things like, "Marriage isn't everything." She tried to sound strong, but her frustration was obvious. Her words had merit, but her actions betrayed her. Nancy bought wedding magazines every month, despite having no immediate plans to marry. She wanted it more than anyone. For 3 years, she dated a man long distance. but their relationship showed no signs of moving forward. "Nancy, you're almost 30, Amelia would say, her voice dripping with judgment. "If you keep dragging your feet, you won't have kids or find someone to marry." Amelia's relentless nagging made Nancy visibly agitated. It became an unspoken rule not to mention marriage around her, but Amelia ignored this, always managing to push Nancy's buttons. To make matters worse, Amelia constantly compared Nancy to me. "Girls like Sarah, who can't remember anything at work and rely on others, are more popular with men," Amelia said with a smirk. "Men don't like strong, assertive women like me." It was exhausting. Each time Nancy went on her tirade about her independence being superior, I had to reassure her. "No, no, women like you are admired by men," I'd say, not to flatter her but to keep the peace. Still, she was emotional and difficult to deal with. Then one day, Amelia dropped a bombshell. "Why don't we all live together?" She said it casually during one of her unannounced visits, leaving Ken, Nancy, and me in stunned silence. "Why?" Ken asked, visibly annoyed. "We see each other all the time anyway. It would be easier to manage one household instead of two," Amelia replied. "Don't you think so, Sarah?" Ken glanced at me, silently pleading for me to refuse. Meanwhile, Amelia stared expectantly, fully anticipating my agreement. "Well, we're still newlyweds," I stammered. "We'd like some more time to ourselves." Amelia laughed, her tone mocking. "A whole year, and you still feel like newlyweds? Must be nice, huh, Nancy? Aren't you jealous?" Nancy's face reddened, but Amelia continued. "I guess Nancy will just have to take care of me in my old age." Nancy's expression darkened. Her tone was icy. "No, since Ken's married, it's his wife's responsibility to take care of you." "Absolutely not," I blurted out, nodding in agreement with Ken's nervous reply. "Having a man in the house would make Mom feel safer." Nancy added smugly. "Ken and Sarah should take her in. I'm out most of the time for work," Ken protested. Amelia's presence was suffocating, and the thought of living with her was unbearable. Yet Nancy seized the moment, pushing me into a corner. "I bet Sarah doesn't want to live with Mom because they're strangers. She's your Amelia, after all. Who wouldn't find that annoying?" I looked to Ken for support, but he avoided my gaze. I felt abandoned, left to fend for myself. Nancy, clearly enjoying the chaos, smirked. "Since Ken and Sarah don't want to, they should be the ones to live with Mom." Her delight at my misery was evident. "I thought I was good to you, but I guess you're just an ungrateful daughter-in-law," Amelia snapped one day. From that moment, our already strained relationship deteriorated even further. One afternoon, she showed up unannounced and declared, "I'm hosting a party, and I need you to come up with some dishes for me to serve." "A party? Serving dishes?" I asked, confused. "You mean you want me to cook for this party?" "Of course, why would I do that? That doesn't make any sense." "Wait, what?" I asked, incredulous. "You'll make the food, and I'll tell everyone I cooked it." "Oh, and we'll host the party here at your house," Amelia explained nonchalantly. "Wait, what? Do you have a problem with that?" she asked, her tone daring me to challenge her. "No, no problem at all," I muttered, swallowing my frustration. "Really, Ken, can't you at least say something?" I whispered to my husband later, but he just shrugged. A week later, the party happened. Amelia invited 5 of her friends to our house and bragged the entire time. She told them she had reluctantly moved in with us because we insisted. She claimed we were overly protective and couldn't bear to see her live alone. Her friends ate it up, praising her close family and marveling at her amazing cooking, all dishes I had spent hours preparing. The whole thing was a charade, a performance so Amelia could show off. Thankfully, there was no second party. Her friends likely humored her the first time out of politeness, but the event emboldened Amelia and Nancy. They began staying over more frequently until it felt like they had moved in entirely. Ken would complain to me in private, but he never confronted them. I felt trapped and isolated. This wasn't the life I imagined when I got married. One day, Nancy came home from work with a radiant smile. "Big news," she announced. "I'm getting married." "Wow, congratulations," I replied, masking my surprise. Nancy, who had been so obsessed with marriage, was finally getting her wish. Her joy was palpable, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Relief washed over me. Finally, Nancy would move out, or so I thought. "We're having a little get-together to introduce my fiancé," she continued. "Wait, you mean here?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Of course, Sarah, could you prepare the food for the party?" Here we go again, I thought, my heart sinking. Wouldn't it make more sense for you to cook since it's your fiancé? Oh, come on, you know I can't cook, Nancy said with a laugh. And that was the crux of it. Nancy, who had lived at home her entire life, had never bothered to learn even the basics. Suddenly, everything clicked. Amelia's eagerness to move in with us wasn't just about meddling, it was exhaustion. She had spent years doing everything for Nancy and was ready to offload the burden. I watched, disheartened, as Nancy and Ken, both hopeless in the kitchen, planned the menu. Ordering food would have been simpler, but I knew the expense would fall on us. Ken would grumble later, but never to their faces. Divorce crossed my mind more and more, but with no savings and nowhere to go, I felt stuck. When the day of the party arrived, Nancy's fiancé, Robert, seemed like a breath of fresh air. "Wow, this looks amazing," he said, complimenting the food Nancy was pretending to have made. "I've never had your cooking before," he added, smiling warmly at her. "Well, we've been in a long-distance relationship, so there weren't many chances," Nancy replied, playing the part perfectly. Robert was polite, attentive, and far too good for her. He even helped Amelia and made an effort to talk to me. If only Ken could learn a thing or two, I thought bitterly. The evening went smoothly, with everyone praising the food. "I'm so relieved it's over," I thought, until Nancy's smug voice interrupted my peace. "So, Sarah, what are you going to do when I move out? I'm sure you'll miss me." "Not one bit," I silently prayed. Shortly after the wedding, Nancy moved out. I hoped things would improve, but Amelia only became more demanding. "Sarah, take me out," she barked one Saturday morning while Ken lay in bed. "I'm tired," Ken mumbled. "Leave me alone." "You always say that," she snapped. Then, turning to me, "Sarah, take me out." Of course, it had fallen to me again. "I'm not feeling well today," I tried to protest. "I don't care," she shot back. "Family should be fair. If your health is prioritized, my desire to go out should be respected too." I stared at her, dumbfounded. Fair? The irony was almost laughable. "I'm really not feeling well. I'm nauseous and have a headache," I said weakly. "It's just a cold. Rest, and you'll be fine," Amelia replied dismissively. "Should I just sleep, then? Who's going to do the chores?" I asked, frustrated. "You talk about fairness, but you never consider doing your part," I muttered. "You're just weak, don't exaggerate," she snapped. I've never heard of a cold being cured by whining about it. Her indifference only made me feel worse, so I decided to ignore her. "Ken," she called out, her voice shrill, "your wife is useless. She's making me upset. And it's annoying. Why don't you handle her? You're her son," I retorted, but it fell on deaf ears. For daring to argue, I found myself locked outside for 30 minutes. After walking aimlessly, I returned to find Ken acting as if nothing had happened. "What's your problem?" he asked, but I didn't have the energy to reply. My condition worsened, and I began running fevers daily. Exhausted, I stopped fighting back. About a month after Nancy moved out, Amelia suggested, since we didn't have a wedding celebration for Nancy, let's celebrate my birthday together as a family. Everyone seemed excited, planning the menu and activities. "I'm sorry, but I'd like to skip the celebration. I'm not feeling well," I said hesitantly. "You've been saying that forever," Amelia scoffed. "You're lying." "I'm not lying," I protested. "The doctor couldn't find anything, so you must be faking it," she declared. "Since you're so fine, you can handle all the chores during the party." Despite my protests, I ended up not only attending but also preparing everything. During the party, Amelia's guests complimented her. "Thanks for having us. I'm looking forward to Sarah's cooking," one of them said cheerfully. "You're welcome," Amelia replied with a smug smile. "Sarah, aren't you going to eat?" one of the guests asked. "I'm fine, thank you," I said, trying to mask my exhaustion. "Don't be silly, come sit with us. It's a family event," they insisted. "No, really, I'm okay," I murmured, forcing a smile. I couldn't relax anymore. I was too used to doing all the work. But then, one of the guests, Robert, noticed my distress. His genuine concern overwhelmed me, and tears started to flow. "Sarah, what's wrong?" he asked softly. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "It's just, no one has been this kind to me in a long time." "Let's get some fresh air," he suggested, leading me outside. "Thank you," I said, finally feeling seen. "Why don't you tell me what's really going on?" he prompted gently. "I don't even know where to start," I admitted, my voice trembling. Before I knew it, I was telling him everything, the neglect, the manipulation, the constant exhaustion. His expression grew stern. "This is unacceptable," he declared and marched back inside. "What kind of house is this? How can you all sit here drinking while Sarah is suffering?" he demanded. The room fell silent. "What did you tell him, Sarah?" Nancy hissed. "Just the truth," I replied firmly. "Nancy, you've been having Sarah cook all your food, haven't you?" Robert asked, his voice full of accusation. "She wanted to," Nancy stammered, but her face betrayed her guilt. "You've been lying to me this whole time." "No, and Ken," Robert continued. "How can you stand by and let your wife be treated this way?" "That's none of your business," Ken retorted, his tone defensive. "It is now," Robert said coldly. "I've decided to divorce Nancy." The room erupted into chaos. "Wait, what? Why?" Nancy shrieked. "You lied to me, that's all you care about? I'm done." Nancy turned to Amelia, panicked. "What about me? Who's going to take care of Mom?" "Not me," Robert said firmly. Nancy looked desperate. "Sarah, you can't be serious about divorce." "I'm dead serious," I snapped, my voice rising for the first time. "I'm done being treated like a servant. Even maids get paid, I don't get a cent. If this family were subject to labor laws, you'd all be in big trouble." "This is ridiculous," Amelia protested. "Is it?" I countered. "You've woken me in the middle of the night to help you look for things, yelled at me for breakfast being late, ignored my feelings, and imposed your wishes on me. This house has no respect for me. Even prisons offer more rights than this place." Ken muttered something under his breath, clearly uncomfortable. "Who cares who's to blame? I can't stay in this toxic family anymore," I declared. "I want a divorce." The double divorce announcement marked the end of an era. Afterward, I kept the house, while Ken moved back in with his parents. Life after the divorce wasn't easy, but I began to heal. Therapy revealed I had a stress-induced mental illness, and I managed to claim damages for emotional distress. Nancy and Robert divorced as well, leaving Nancy to move back in with Amelia and Ken. The three of them struggled, eventually losing their home and moving together to start over. As for me, I found peace. I became a preschool teacher, a dream I had abandoned long ago. Now, I live in a shared house with other women and rescue cats, surrounded by love and laughter. I've built a new life for myself. Happiness isn't tied to marriage or children, and I'm living proof of that. How do you feel? Have you had time to reflect on everything yet? I stood there, face to face with my husband, the man who had thrown me out of the house after blindly believing his stepchild's lies. He wore an air of superiority, looking down on me as if he knew everything. I couldn't help but laugh. "Reflect? No, not at all," I said calmly, pulling a stack of papers from my bag. "Now, please sign here." I handed him the divorce papers and legal documents my lawyer had prepared. He maintained his calm demeanor as he took the papers, signing them without protest, until he saw the attached documents. His expression froze, his hand trembling slightly. Beside him, his stepchild, Jim, began to panic. The lies they had so carefully constructed had been exposed, and the truth laid bare. Let me backtrack a bit. My name is Mary. I'm a 52-year-old office worker who had been married for just a year. I lived with my husband and his adult son, Jim, who worked full-time but refused to leave the house he'd grown up in. I never adopted Jim, so to me, he was little more than a stranger. From the beginning, I had hoped he would move out, but Jim dug in his heels. "This is my mother's house," he explained firmly. "She died 5 years ago, and I won't leave the home I shared with her." I sympathized, having lost my first husband around the same time Jim's mother passed, but sympathy didn't make his defiance any easier to live with. "My mom was a better cook, but I guess I'll eat this," Jim muttered one evening, picking at the meal I'd prepared with a sigh of disdain. He didn't bother hiding his contempt, and it wore me down. If my cooking was so unbearable, why didn't he make his own meals? Frustrated, I turned to my husband. "Jim clearly doesn't like my cooking. What should I do?" My husband shrugged. "Then stop cooking for him. He doesn't have to eat it." His indifference stung, but I followed his advice. The next time Jim came home to no dinner, he exploded. "Why isn't there food for me? You married my dad, so it's your job to make my meals too, right?" No matter what I did, I couldn't win. Jim's comments grew nastier, and my husband's refusal to intervene left me feeling isolated. Before we married, my husband had assured me that Jim would move out soon. Yet here we were, and Jim showed no signs of leaving. "He just can't afford to live on his own," my husband claimed, though I knew better. Jim had inherited a substantial estate from his late mother and squandered much of it on luxury items. His extravagant lifestyle wasn't a secret. Collection notices from credit card companies piled up in his room. I didn't even bother telling my husband anymore. Jim wasn't just reckless with money, he was dismissive of me, and my husband's passivity only enabled him. It wasn't long before I realized the man I married wasn't as steadfast as I thought. I confided in my daughter, Emma. Maybe Jim just loves living at home, she suggested, but if I were him, I'd never impose on newlyweds like this. Her words gave me clarity. I had spent too long tolerating the intolerable. It was time to take control of my life again. I got proposed to. Hearing my daughter's excited announcement, I couldn't help but smile. Since my remarriage, good news had been scarce, so this brought a rare moment of joy. I knew she had been dating someone for a while, and I'd been wondering when she'd take this step. Congratulations, I exclaimed warmly. I'm sure your father in heaven is smiling too. As I said it, memories of my late husband came rushing back. He had worried about our daughter's future until his final moments. I felt certain he would have been relieved to see her find happiness. I'll introduce my fiancé to you soon, Emma said, then her tone shifted. But, do I have to introduce him to Brian? He's just your second husband, he has nothing to do with me. Her hesitation was clear, and I couldn't blame her. She had her reasons for feeling distant from Brian. Just greet him briefly, I said, hoping to ease her discomfort. Unlike Jim, my stepson, Emma didn't live with us, and she hadn't been adopted by Brian. She'd told her fiancé about her late father and my remarriage, but she didn't have a high opinion of Brian or Jim, largely because I had vented to her about them. Explain the situation to him yourself, she said with a small, awkward smile. I don't really want to meet them. When I told Brian about Emma's engagement, he barely reacted. His indifference stung, but I wasn't surprised. He'd never shown much interest in Emma. Later, Jim made a snide remark. Why don't you just divorce Dad and live with your daughter? You probably hate living with us anyway. Shocked, I looked to Brian for support, but as usual, he walked out of the room without saying a word. Jim's comment wasn't surprising. He often used any opportunity to push me out of the house. Annoyed, I snapped back. Don't you have someone special in your life? Why don't you get married and give your father and mother some peace of mind? Jim scowled, his irritation evident, and walked away without answering. He rarely talked about relationships, and I doubted he had a partner. Brian, as always, didn't seem to care enough to discuss Jim's future. The thought crossed my mind, what if Jim got married and decided to live here with his wife? The idea filled me with dread. I brought it up to Brian. Do you think Jim will want to stay here after getting married? I asked. Just leave it to Jim. I don't care either way, he replied dismissively. His indifference was infuriating. It seemed he had long since given up on encouraging Jim to move out. Eventually, I met Emma's fiancé. Before the meeting, I asked Brian if he wanted to come along. Predictably, he refused. I don't care about that. You don't need to invite me to the wedding, either, he said flatly. Though disappointed, I ignored him and went alone. Emma's fiancé turned out to be a wonderful person, mature, reliable, and kind. He was around Jim's age, but carried himself with far more grace and responsibility. You found yourself a great man, I said, feeling genuinely relieved. When I remarried Brian, I thought I had found someone dependable too. How wrong I had been. Emma's fiancé lived alone and handled all his household chores. Compared to Jim, who refused to lift a finger, he seemed like a dream. If I'd been Jim's biological mother, I thought, I'd have taught him to take responsibility and contribute to the household. I started to worry about what the future held. Brian and I were still healthy, but I doubted Jim would take care of either of us in old age, not me, and probably not even his own father. Emma noticed my worried expression. What's wrong? Are you unhappy about the wedding? She joked lightly. I decided to share my concerns about Jim. Her fiancé, overhearing, smiled reassuringly. I've heard about Jim from Emma. Don't worry, we'll take good care of you. If things don't work out with your husband and his son, you can always come live with us. His kindness brought me a sense of relief I hadn't felt in years. When I returned home late that night, Jim greeted me with his usual disdain. A housekeeper shouldn't be late. Dad and I are starving, he complained. Hearing him call me a housekeeper stung, but Brian, true to form, pretended not to hear. Compared to Emma's mature fiancé, Brian and Jim seemed even more pathetic. I wanted to snap back. If you're hungry, cook for yourselves, but I bit my tongue and silently prepared dinner. Lately, Brian had been spending his weekends out of the house, leaving me alone with Jim. While I preferred being alone to dealing with Jim, it made me question the purpose of our marriage. We had talked about spending our lives together, but he was off doing whatever he wanted. "Where do you go every weekend?" I asked one day. "Take me with you sometime." "I'm not going out for fun," he said, looking troubled. "A friend's mother is in the hospital, so I'm helping out." "Every weekend?" I asked, suspicious. I decided to confront Brian about his suspicious behavior. "Is this friend you're helping a woman?" I asked bluntly. Brian panicked, hastily denying it, but his flustered reaction only deepened my doubts. From that point, he continued spending weekends out, and our relationship deteriorated further. Noticing the growing tension, Jim seemed delighted. He smirked as he approached me. "Dad probably regrets marrying an old lady like you. Maybe he wishes he'd married someone younger. You're going to get cheated on and kicked out. Poor thing." I was furious at his spiteful words, but given Brian's behavior, I couldn't help but wonder if there was some truth to them. Jim didn't seem to know anything concrete, he was just saying it to hurt me. "Why don't you just give up on Dad and leave before things get messy?" Jim added with a smirk. His remark pushed me to realize that I needed to investigate Brian's actions. But first, I snapped back. "If I leave, who's going to cook and clean for you? You don't do any housework, do you?" Jim glared at me and stormed off. If I left, I knew Jim would struggle. Brian had handled everything before I moved in, but the house had been a mess. Meals had come from the supermarket, and cleaning was non-existent. If I left, it would likely return to that state. Worse, I wondered if Brian intended to replace me with his mistress. Just as I was sinking deeper into my thoughts, Emma called. "Mom, I need to talk to you. Can you come over?" she asked, her voice serious. Worried, I hurried to her place. Her fiancé, Jack, was there as well. "What's the matter? Don't tell me you're calling off the wedding," I said anxiously. They both smiled awkwardly. "Why would we cancel the wedding? This is about you, not us." Relieved, I was caught off guard by their next revelation. Jack showed me his phone and asked, "Is this your husband, Brian?" I didn't recognize him at first, but then I noticed the young woman next to him calling him by name. After examining the photo closely, I realized it was indeed Brian, wearing clothes I had seen before. The photo was taken at a wedding venue, and they were discussing their own wedding plans. I was speechless. Brian had no children other than Jim, so the young woman couldn't be his daughter. It was unthinkable that he was planning to marry someone else while still married to me. "That woman looks far too young to be Jim's girlfriend, doesn't she?" Emma asked. I recalled Brian's recent suspicious behavior and admitted, "I've suspected he might be cheating, but I never imagined he'd be with someone so young." Emma and Jack were shocked. I told them everything, Brian's evasive behavior, his frequent absences, and my growing suspicions. "Your husband is awful. We need to properly investigate and make sure he takes responsibility," Jack said firmly. "You need to divorce him immediately, Mom," Emma added. I agreed but knew we needed evidence first. Jack started searching for private investigators. "Don't worry about your future, Mom. You can come live with us," he reassured me. Feeling supported, I returned home with a newfound determination. Jim greeted me the same way he always did. "Hurry up and make dinner. Housekeepers shouldn't be out so late," he said dismissively. His attitude irritated me, but I started preparing dinner as usual. I was determined not to let him see me struggle. Once I had proof of Brian's affair, I would leave. If Brian remarried, Jim would have to rely on his new stepmother, and he wouldn't be able to treat her the same way he treated me. When Brian came home, I decided to test him. "Will you be attending our daughter's wedding? They're having it at a prestigious venue," I said, casually mentioning the name of the venue in the photo. Brian's face stiffened for a moment before he denied knowing the place. His reaction confirmed my suspicions, but I decided not to press further for now. Then Brian changed the subject. "Jim hasn't asked you for money, has he? He's been struggling financially lately." I shook my head. Jim had never asked me for money. He didn't see me as anything more than a housekeeper and didn't expect help from me. "He's been pestering me for money," Brian continued. "Despite inheriting a large sum from his mother, he blew through it all. Now he's asking me for help." I thought about the debt collection notices I had found while cleaning Jim's room, but I didn't tell Brian. I couldn't bring myself to confide in a man who was likely cheating on me. Besides, I feared Jim's reaction if he found out I had seen them. He'd probably scream at me and tell me to stay out of his business. "Housekeeper." "I haven't heard anything about that," I said instead. "Can't you talk to him about it? Tell him to stop wasting money," Brian pleaded. I was stunned. Jim doesn't listen to me. He sees me as nothing but a housekeeper. "You're his father, you should talk to him." But Brian kept pushing. "Don't be so cold, please. I'm not good at dealing with tough conversations." His insistence only made me more disappointed in him. The next day, he continued to press me. Have you talked to Jim about the money yet? What did he say? When I told him I hadn't, he grew angry. What are you doing? You need to talk to Jim about this right away. Fed up with his nagging, I resolved to focus on gathering evidence of his affair. Once I had it, I would finally be free of Brian and Jim. Reluctantly, I approached Jim. Your father is worried about your spending, I began, choosing my words carefully. He asked me to remind you to be more careful with money. I tried to sound as non-confrontational as possible, but Jim exploded in anger. Who do you think you are, housekeeper? He sneered. It's my money, and I'll spend it however I want. It's none of your business. I could see why Brian had avoided this conversation. Jim was impossible to reason with. Still, I couldn't help but wish Brian, as his father, would handle this himself. It was becoming increasingly clear that Brian cared little for his son's issues and was entirely focused on his affair. Jim glared at me with hatred. I'll get you kicked out of this house, just wait. His words stung, but I reminded myself that once I had proof of Brian's infidelity, I would leave on my own terms. A few days later, Emma called me with the results of the investigation. Mom, we have the proof, she said firmly. Can you meet Jack and me at a local restaurant? My heart sank. Was it true? Did he really cheat on me? I asked. Emma's fury was evident. Yes, it's true. He's been seeing a woman much younger than you. They're even looking for a new house together. Jack handed me the investigation report, filled with undeniable evidence, countless photos of Brian with his mistress. You need to divorce him right away, Jack advised. This woman seems very suspicious. She's been spending extravagantly and might be seeing other men besides your husband. She could be planning to take his money and leave him. Hearing this made me realize how deeply Brian had fallen for this woman's schemes. They had already visited a wedding venue, and she might have taken money for wedding preparations and a new house. Jack's words gave me a sense of urgency. I needed to act quickly. After discussing the next steps with Emma and Jack, I returned home, the investigation report in hand. When I arrived, I found Jim and Brian talking in the living room. Mary, come here, we need to talk. Brian called me over with a serious expression. I thought it was the perfect opportunity to confront him. Jim smirked as he glanced at me. You've been seeing a younger guy, haven't you? Dad saw you at a family restaurant with him today. Jim showed a blurry photo on his phone of me with Jack, caught red-handed. How embarrassing, dating someone the same age as your daughter. Jim was gloating, but I refused to let it affect me. That's Emma's fiancé, and she was with us at the restaurant, I said calmly. But Brian wouldn't listen. Jim caught you in the act. You've been cheating on me, haven't you? Dad, kick her out. Let's live together again like before, Jim urged. I agree with Jim, Brian said arrogantly. Leave this house, Mary, we'll deal with the divorce and money later. I could hardly believe his audacity. I felt like laughing at how clueless he was. All right, I said coolly, I'll leave. We can discuss the divorce and financial matters later. As I walked toward the door, Jim yelled, make us dinner before you go. I'm hungry. Even at that moment, all he cared about was food. I ignored him and left the house with the investigation report in my bag. I went straight to Emma's house and explained what had happened. I can't believe they mocked me for your lover, Jack said, shaking his head. Their minds are delusional. I knew I had made the right choice by leaving. Emma and Jack promised to help me with the divorce proceedings. Just to be sure, I asked, are you sure you'll be okay with me living with you after you're married? Of course, Mom, we want you to live with us, Emma reassured me. 3 weeks passed before Brian finally contacted me. Let's meet and discuss things at the house. Bring the divorce papers, he said. On the day of the meeting, I arrived with Emma, Jack, and our lawyer. Brian's face paled when he saw us. Why didn't you come alone? He stammered. You never said I had to come alone, I replied. The house was a mess. Even after just 3 weeks, it was already filthy. Brian sneered. Even with all these people, you'll still pay alimony. I laughed. I've done nothing wrong. Here, sign these. I handed him the divorce papers. Brian froze when he saw the documents. Why am I paying alimony? You're the one who cheated, he protested, showing the blurry photo again. Our lawyer handed him the investigator's report. We have proof of your affair, he said firmly. Brian's face turned ashen as he read the report. Jim, too, was speechless. I can't pay alimony. I'm broke. I borrowed money for the wedding and honeymoon, Brian admitted. Jim's true motives became clear. You're not remarrying, are you? I don't want to lose half of your inheritance. Brian looked defeated. I've already spent all of Mom's inheritance, he confessed. Jim collapsed in disbelief. Dad, can't you lend me some money? You've got some left, right? Brian begged Jim for help, but Jim had none to give. I reminded them both. Jim, I found debt collection notices in your room. At your age, asking your mom to clean your room is just embarrassing. The lawyer presented the alimony documents, and Brian reluctantly signed them. Jack added, I heard your mistress is spending your money and seeing other men. Brian turned white as a sheet. Frantically, he tried to call her, but she didn't pick up. Mary, I'm sorry, don't leave us, Jim begged. Dad's never home, and I'm tired of eating junk food. I refused. Ask your father's new wife. You'll have a young housekeeper soon enough. We left them behind and headed straight to City Hall to file for divorce. Afterward, I moved in with Emma and Jack. It was a bit cramped, but we were planning to move to a bigger place soon. A few weeks later, I heard that Brian's mistress had scammed him. She had taken a large sum of money for a wedding that would never happen. He had been left with nothing but debt. Jim called me, begging for help. Mom, Dad moved out, and I have nowhere to go. I'm not your mother, I reminded him. We're not related, and I've divorced your father. Eventually, Jack threatened to report Jim to the police if he kept harassing me. That finally scared him off. Life with Emma and Jack was peaceful. Soon, we received wonderful news. Emma was pregnant. I was thrilled to become a grandmother and focused on preparing for her wedding and our growing family. Life was finally looking up, and I was determined to cherish every moment with my loved ones. Today, my husband Tom and I attended my nephew Kyle's birthday party at my sister-in-law Julia's house. When it was time to eat, Julia served takeout sushi to everyone, except me. Confused, I hesitated before Julia said something shocking. We didn't invite anyone who's not family, so don't just show up uninvited. Tom's face turned red with anger. Without saying a word, he grabbed my hand, and we both stormed out of the house. As we walked away, something unexpected happened to Julia's family, and she collapsed to her knees. My name is Lisa James, and I'm 33 years old. I used to work as a nurse, which is how I met my husband Tom, who is also a nurse. Tom's gentle and selfless nature drew me to him, and I was the one who mustered the courage to ask him out for dinner. To my delight, he said yes. After a few dates, our connection grew stronger, and we naturally began a relationship. One memorable evening, while enjoying a candlelit dinner at a restaurant with a stunning night view, Tom pulled out a small velvet box and proposed. Overwhelmed with happiness, I said yes, and we soon became husband and wife. After we married, I decided to leave my job to support Tom, who worked long shifts at the hospital. I embraced the role of a stay-at-home wife. Lisa, your cooking is the best, Tom would often say, praising my meals while sharing housework duties. He's truly a wonderful husband. When Tom's father passed away, it deeply affected his family. His mother, Mary, became quite lonely. Mary, who had always treated me like her own daughter, was someone I grew to love dearly. Having been raised by my father after my parents divorced when I was a baby, I never knew what a mother's love felt like. Spending time with Mary gave me a sense of what it might have been like if my parents had stayed together. To ease Mary's loneliness, I suggested to Tom that we invite her to live with us. However, Julia strongly opposed the idea. I can't let Mom live in a house with strangers, she declared, referring to me. Though her words stung, I understood her hesitation. Julia eventually moved into their family home with Mary, claiming, I know Mom best, so leave her to me. Yet, I couldn't ignore the unease in Mary's expression whenever we spoke. I began visiting Mary regularly. She was often alone during the day while Julia and her husband worked, and her grandson Kyle attended daycare. Each visit, Mary greeted me warmly. Thank you, Lisa, your visits brighten my days, she'd say, and our conversations became the highlight of my week. But one day, when I rang the doorbell, Julia answered instead of Mary. Her cold gaze made me pause. What do you want? She snapped. I just wanted to see Mary, I replied hesitantly. Julia scoffed. You're not family, and she has nothing to say to you. She began to shut the door, but Mary appeared behind her. Lisa, I've got some sweets to share. Come in, Mary said, inviting me inside despite Julia's evident irritation. Before leaving for work, Julia gave Mary a stern reminder. Don't forget to be careful with Kyle's food allergies. I'll be back this evening. After Julia left, Mary looked apologetic. I'm so sorry about Julia. She can be difficult. It's okay, I reassured her, though I was concerned. Mary, are you managing everything here on your own? Mary sighed deeply. Yes, Julia says she's busy with work and leaves everything to me, cooking, cleaning, and taking care of Kyle. It's exhausting. It was clear that Julia treated Mary more like a maid than a family member. Feeling sympathy for her, I decided to help whenever I could. When I told Tom about the situation, he frowned. Julia's always been bossy, even when we were kids, but treating Mom like this? It's too much. One evening, while Tom and I were watching TV, Mary called with a surprising request. Lisa, there's a parent observation day at Kyle's daycare tomorrow. Everyone else's mom is attending, and I think Kyle will feel left out if I go. Could you come instead? I hesitated. Isn't Julia going? Mary sighed heavily. She said she can't take time off work. I don't know what she's thinking. It's such an important day for Kyle. I understand, Mary. I'll go with you, I said. Mary sounded relieved, her tone happy as she ended the call. I couldn't help but think Julia should have made the time for her son's special day. Surely Kyle would want his mom there, but perhaps Julia had her own reasons, and I decided to put my feelings aside. The next morning, I stopped by Julia's house at the time Mary had asked. On the way, I picked up some snacks I thought Kyle might enjoy. When I arrived, Mary greeted me at the door. Thank you so much for doing this, she said. It's no trouble at all, I reassured her. But are you sure Kyle will be okay with me coming? Of course, Kyle loves you, Lisa. He'll be thrilled to see you, Mary replied warmly. Feeling reassured, we headed to the daycare together. The place was bustling with activity, filled with excited children and their mothers. We quietly watched Kyle participate in the activities, and when he spotted us, he waved enthusiastically and smiled. I waved back, matching his cheerful energy. He looked so angelic in that moment. On our way home, Kyle ran up to me and exclaimed, Lisa, I'm so happy you came. Let's play a lot when we get back. I smiled at his enthusiasm. Sure, I'll think of something fun for us to do. He beamed with joy before running back to join his friends. See, I told you he adores you, Mary said with a smile. I couldn't help but feel a little proud. Kyle's warm and friendly nature made spending time with him such a delight. Whenever we met, he'd eagerly ask me to play, and we'd often have fun like children together. After the observation session ended, parents and children were expected to head home together. I held Kyle's small hand as we walked back to Julia's house. I gave him the snacks I'd brought, and his eyes lit up with happiness. Anyone watching us might have mistaken us for a mother and son. But as we approached the house, Kyle's expression changed. His smile faded, and tears began streaming down his face. Kyle, what's wrong? I asked, alarmed. I wanted to play with Lisa more, he sobbed. I don't like Grandma. I want Lisa. Mary looked heartbroken, unsure of how to respond. Shall we play a little longer? I offered gently. Originally, I had planned to head home after the observation, but seeing Kyle so upset, I decided to stay for a while longer. We played games together, and time flew by. Before I knew it, it was dinner time. Mary looked exhausted, so I decided to cook something before leaving. Kyle, what would you like to eat? I asked. A hamburger, a big one, he exclaimed. With the ingredients available in the fridge, I quickly whipped up a hamburger, carefully avoiding eggs because of Kyle's allergy. I even drew a happy face on it with ketchup, which made Kyle squeal with excitement. Eat up, Kyle. Enjoy, I said with a smile. Kyle dug in happily. Thank you, Lisa. Let's play again soon. After dinner, Mary walked me to the door to see me off. Kyle looked a bit sad as he waved goodbye. Just then, we heard the front door open. I'm home, a voice called out. It was Julia's husband, Jack. Jack was a quiet, reserved man, quite the opposite of Julia. In all the time I'd known him, we had exchanged only a few words. I'm sorry for staying so late, I said. I'll be leaving now. Don't apologize, Jack said kindly. Honestly, this should be my wife's responsibility, but thank you for helping out. Kyle looked so happy. I had so much fun with Lisa today, Kyle chimed in, smiling. Jack smiled back at his son. That's good to hear. As I moved toward the door, Julia suddenly appeared. Her sharp eyes landed on me. What are you doing here again? She demanded, her voice cold. I asked Lisa to come today, Mary interjected. She even went to Kyle's daycare observation and made this hamburger. But Julia's anger didn't subside. She picked up the plate with the hamburger I'd made, and before anyone could react, she threw it into the trash. The room went silent. Even Kyle looked shocked. Jack quickly opened the trash can and retrieved the plate. What are you doing, Julia? Lisa worked hard to make this, he said, his voice trembling with anger. Julia snapped back at him. Don't talk to me like that. I earn just as much as you, if not more. Show some respect. Jack fell silent, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Julia's domineering attitude clearly weighed heavily on him. Feeling overwhelmed, I quickly apologized. I'm sorry for overstepping. I'll leave now. Julia glared at me. Stay out of my kitchen next time, or you'll regret it. Fighting back tears, I hurried out of the house. On the way home, I couldn't stop crying. All I had wanted was to help, but my efforts only seemed to anger Julia further. Why did things always go wrong when I tried to do the right thing? When I got home, the lights were already on. Tom had returned from work and was preparing dinner. Seeing my tear-streaked face, he rushed over. Lisa, what happened? He asked, concerned. I told him everything. His face turned red with anger. Julia, again. I'm calling her right now, he said, grabbing his phone. No, please don't, I said quickly. I don't want things to get worse. Tom sighed and put the phone down. He pulled me into a hug. I'm always on your side, Lisa, no matter what. In that moment, I felt so grateful to have Tom in my life. For a while, I avoided Julia's house, afraid of another confrontation. But then one day, my phone rang, and to my surprise, Julia's name appeared on the screen. Hesitantly, I answered. Next week is Kyle's birthday. We're having a party, so make sure Tom comes, Julia said curtly. Before I could respond, she added, and don't forget the birthday present, then hung up. I stood there in disbelief. After everything, Julia was now inviting us to Kyle's birthday party. When I told Tom, his expression darkened. There's something going on, he said. Maybe, but it's for Kyle, I replied. We should go. Kyle excitedly showed Julia the gift. Look, Mom, he exclaimed, holding it up with bright eyes, but Julia scoffed. What a cheap-looking toy, she said coldly. Her words cut through the moment like a knife. I froze in shock, unable to respond. You two don't even have kids, so you must have plenty of money. You could have gotten Kyle something better, Julia continued, her voice dripping with disdain. Tom opened his mouth as if to argue, but even he seemed too stunned to speak. This is what I wanted, Kyle shouted, his small hands clutching the gift. Don't be mean to Lisa. His innocent words struck a nerve, and Julia's face twisted with anger. If you love Lisa so much, why don't you become her kid? She snapped, her voice sharp and venomous. Kyle's lips trembled, and tears spilled down his cheeks. Jack silently stepped in, scooping Kyle into his arms and whispering words of comfort. I watched in disbelief, my heart breaking for the little boy. As the tension hung in the air, the doorbell rang. Lisa, the sushi delivery is here. Could you get it? Julia asked nonchalantly. Sure, I replied, needing an excuse to step away from the tension. At the door, the delivery man handed over the order. 5 sets, 1 kid sushi set and 4 adult sets, he announced, puzzled. I asked Julia, weren't there supposed to be 6 sets? There are only 4 adult ones. That's correct, she said curtly, paying the man. Her dismissive tone didn't sit right, but I decided not to press the issue. Returning to the dining table, I noticed something even stranger. There wasn't a chair for me. Tom stood, ready to offer his seat, but Julia intervened. Lisa, that's Tom's seat. Yours is over there, she said, pointing to a small side table in the corner. Our dining table is small, so not everyone can sit here. Sorry, she added with a mock apologetic tone. Though hurt, I decided not to make a scene and quietly took the seat she indicated. When the food was served, Mary brought over my portion, but something was missing. Lisa doesn't have any sushi, Mary pointed out, her brows furrowing. We didn't order for anyone who isn't family, Julia said with a cruel laugh. Her words were a dagger to my heart, confirming what I had long suspected. She didn't see me as family. Tom's anger boiled over. That's enough, Julia. Lisa, we're leaving, he said, grabbing my hand. I didn't look back as we walked out, tears streaming down my face. Back home, Tom pulled me into his arms. I'm sorry for what she said, he murmured. His unwavering support was my only solace. That night, Mary called with shocking news. Julia got food poisoning from the sushi and had to go to the hospital, she said. I was stunned. Are Jack and Kyle okay? I asked. Yes, they ate the sushi too, but only Julia got sick, Mary replied. Kyle was worried about you, Lisa. Tom, overhearing the conversation, muttered under his breath, Karma. 3 days later, Julia appeared at our doorstep with Jack and Mary. She stormed in without invitation. How dare you live here in this tiny house? She sneered, her words as cutting as ever. What brings you here? I asked, still shocked. Julia's expression darkened. You poisoned the sushi, didn't you? I'll sue you for damages. Her baseless accusations drained the strength from my body. I didn't do anything. I just accepted the delivery, I said, trying to keep calm. That's enough, Mary's voice thundered. She defended me and even exposed Julia's secret affair with photographic proof. Jack's face turned pale as he stared at the evidence. After a heated argument, Jack left with Kyle, declaring he was filing for divorce. Mary announced her intention to sell the family home and sever ties with Julia completely. 6 months later, Julia and Jack's divorce was finalized. Kyle stayed with his father, and Julia moved into a small apartment. Her attempts to reconcile with Mary were met with silence. She had burned too many bridges. Meanwhile, Tom and I began a new chapter. One evening, as we celebrated our move into a new home, I shared the news with Mary. By winter, there will be 2 grandchildren. Mary's face lit up with joy. Lisa, are you? Yes, I confirmed with a smile. I'm 3 months pregnant. As Mary cried tears of happiness, I felt hope and peace for the future. For the first time in a long while, everything felt right. The wedding, which should have been a joyful occasion, turned into a painful memory because of my husband. It had taken us a long time to finally get married, primarily due to conflicting schedules, or rather, his lack of effort to align them. In fact, I didn't even meet my in-laws until the wedding day itself. Despite my unease, I trusted his reassurances and went through with the ceremony. During the event, I noticed faint snickering. At first, I dismissed it as paranoia, but a glance at my in-laws' table revealed they were laughing, though not looking in my direction. I hoped this was some odd attempt at humor orchestrated by Sam, my husband. Of course, it wasn't. The ceremony continued in a haze, and soon, the host signaled it was time for the outfit change. Wanting to avoid any attention, I quickly retreated to the dressing room. The second outfit was a striking red and black dress, stylish, perhaps overly so, but it complemented Sam's attire. As a video production professional, he had an eye for aesthetics, so it made sense. Walking through the hallway, the plush carpet felt oddly grounding beneath my feet, but my brief moment of comfort was shattered when I overheard a sharp, unpleasant voice. Instinctively, I hid behind a wall and listened. To my shock, I discovered how my in-laws truly felt about me. My name is Emma Miller. I work as a saleswoman for a foreign company, leading a fast-paced career. Most days, my work ends at 6 p.m. and I eagerly return to my apartment. On the night in question, I had 2 WhatsApp messages waiting after work. One was from a friend, which I flagged to respond to later. The other was from Sam. I'd like steak for dinner tonight, he wrote. I realized there was no steak at home, so I stopped by the butcher's and bought premium beef from Sam's hometown, charged to my credit card. Of course. When I got back, I began preparing dinner. Sam poked his head into the kitchen. I'll set the table, he offered. It's okay, I replied, urging him to focus on his video project. As the deadline was near, grateful, he went back to work, and I couldn't help but think of how we met 7 years ago. We were introduced by a mutual friend. On one of our dates, some rough-looking man tried to harass us. Sam, quick thinking as always, pulled out his camera and recorded everything. What do you think your company would say if I sent this video? He asked them. Despite being 5 years younger than me, Sam's calm demeanor and reliability won me over. Initially, I was concerned about his income, but I chose to support him wholeheartedly. My biggest struggle was deciding between my career and marriage. 7 years ago, I couldn't have imagined the regret I'd feel now, wondering if I'd wasted my youth waiting for him. Sam had asked me to wait until his work stabilized before marrying. Outwardly, I agreed, but deep down, I longed for commitment. The loneliness of his absence gnawed at me. I tried chatting with him over WhatsApp, but he often dodged my attempts at deeper conversations. One morning, while making breakfast, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My face was neither old nor particularly youthful, and for the first time, I wondered if I was losing my appeal as a woman. That night, on our shared bed, I finally voiced my fears. Sam, I began hesitantly, am I not attractive anymore? He looked at me, surprised. Of course, you are, he said. You're responsible, hardworking, and an amazing cook. That's what I love about you. Then let's get married, I blurted out. Sam paused, then smiled. Really? You think I'd joke about something like this? That night, he promised me forever. We set a wedding date almost immediately. Sam insisted on the perfect day, citing the almanac, and brushed off my concerns about logistics. But my parents can't make it on those dates, I protested. Then they won't attend. he replied firmly. His resolute tone left me uneasy, but after 7 years together, I knew he wouldn't budge. Despite my unease, I tried to focus on the positives. I wanted to show my parents how happy I was, but guilt weighed heavily on me. My father was unwell and couldn't attend, which Sam apologized for but did little to accommodate. On our wedding day, I met his parents for the first time, feeling like a stranger to the family I was about to join. 7 years of love had brought me here, but standing at the altar, I couldn't shake the nagging thought that I had given up too much, my time, my career dreams, and perhaps even my peace, for a man who rarely met me halfway. I slept surprisingly well the night before, and the clear sky promised a perfect day for a wedding. Sam and I headed to the hotel for the ceremony. "Hi, I'm Emma. I look forward to being part of the family," I rehearsed in my mind, trying to stay positive despite my nerves. When Sam had shared photos of his family on WhatsApp, I'd noticed how much he resembled his mother. As I lifted my gaze to the sky that morning, I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to spend my life with these people. "Sam, how's work going? Have you been eating properly?" his mother asked during their brief conversation. "It's tough, but I'm managing. I'd love to have some of Mom's homemade food again," he replied with a boyish smile. I glanced around and realized my own parents weren't there. Sam was busy chatting with his family, leaving me feeling like an outsider. As I tried to shake off the unease, I suddenly heard a baby crying behind me. I turned to see a young mother, likely in her 20s, cradling an infant in one arm while holding a small boy's hand with the other. The boy looked familiar. He resembled Sam. "Molly?" I asked tentatively, assuming she was Sam's sister. She clicked her tongue dismissively. "Congratulations, big brother. Or should I say, my condolences?" I forced a laugh, unsure how to respond. Her tone felt off, and my unease deepened. As I tried to introduce myself to Sam's family, his mother, Emily, cut me off. "Thanks to Sam, we're having this beautiful reception at such a fancy hotel. It's almost too much." The conversation spiraled, with Molly joking about budgets and the family laughing at inside jokes. I felt a headache forming. Sam was smiling at me, but his gaze was distant, as if I were just another guest at the wedding. The ceremony began, but it felt hollow, without my parents there. I walked down the aisle alone. I heard faint snickers and glanced towards Sam's family. They weren't even looking at me. The day, meant to be joyful, was turning into a nightmare. After the ceremony, I changed into a red and black dress for the reception. It was stylish, perhaps overly so, but it matched Sam's outfit. As I walked down the carpeted hallway toward the venue, I overheard voices. Curious, I paused to listen. "She only married Sam for his money," someone said. "She's spoiled, we'll need to straighten her out," added another voice. I froze, my chest tightening. The voices continued. "She's just putting on a nice act, but we know her true intentions." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mind raced as I realized Sam had told his family I was the one reluctant to marry. It explained why they saw me as some kind of villain. Moments later, Sam's family passed by, chatting loudly. "She can do the dishes, at least," Emily said dismissively. "She'll never manage both morning and evening chores," another voice chimed in, laughing. The humiliation was unbearable. The tradition of changing into a new outfit during the wedding, meant to symbolize a bride blending into her new family, felt like a cruel joke. I didn't want to blend into this family. Leaning against the wall, I heard Sam's voice. "What are you guys talking about?" he asked casually. "Oh, just how lucky you are to be marrying such a unique woman," Molly teased. I clenched my fists as they laughed. Even Sam didn't defend me. My last shred of hope vanished. Without thinking, I marched past them, catching Sam's attention. "Hey, wait, what's going on?" he called out. Ignoring him, I went straight to the host. "I need your help," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Can you play this audio file? It's crucial." The host hesitated but eventually connected my phone to the speakers. The room buzzed with whispers as the audio of Sam's family's cruel conversation played. Their laughter, insults, and condescension echoed through the venue. The guests were stunned. Some criticized me for airing the drama, but my friends, colleagues, and superiors defended me fiercely. "Given the circumstances," I announced, my voice steady despite the lump in my throat, "I hereby declare this wedding cancelled." With that, I walked out of the venue in my wedding dress. By the time I returned to the apartment, my phone was flooded with missed calls from Sam. I answered one. "What the hell, Emma? Canceling the wedding? Do you know what you've done? The guests are furious, and everything's ruined." "Well, since I paid for the wedding, I think I have the right to cancel it, I replied coldly. You're being ridiculous, he shouted. No, Sam, I was a fool for not seeing your true nature sooner. I, Emma Miller, vow to divorce you. I hung up. Sam didn't call back. That night, I called my mother. Mom, I just divorced Sam. Can I come home? Her calm, reassuring voice on the other end brought tears to my eyes. Of course, sweetheart, come home. I packed only the essentials and drove to my parents' house. They listened patiently as I explained everything, never blaming me or urging me to apologize. A week later, Sam called, but by then, I was already on a new path, one where I chose myself over someone who never did. I was discussing plans for the future with my parents over dinner when my phone buzzed unexpectedly. The screen lit up with Sam's name. Without preamble, he said, I need to talk to you. I'm coming over. Then he hung up. Who was that? My father asked, his expression sharpening. It was my ex-husband, I replied, watching my father's eyes narrow as he pushed his chair back to stand. Honey, let's prepare the living room for guests. We should be polite, my mother said, rising from her seat with calm resolve. Emma, take it easy. This must be hard for you, my father added, trying to shoulder some of the burden. I stood as well. Dad, I'm 35 now. I need to handle this myself. Please let me. He regarded me for a moment, then nodded, his stern expression softening. You've grown. I'm proud of you. Minutes later, the doorbell rang. I answered it to find Sam, his parents, and his sister Molly standing awkwardly outside. Their demeanor betrayed both urgency and defensiveness. Please wait in the living room, I said evenly, stepping aside to let them in. My family will join shortly. As they settled, Sam wasted no time launching into accusations. How dare you ruin my wedding, he said, his voice rehearsed but heated. His use of my wedding struck me, but I remained composed. You've made our family a laughingstock. Emily, his mother, chimed in, her words thinly veiled as she attempted to seem reasonable in my parents' presence. Molly added, poor big brother, how's he supposed to remarry with a divorce record? I have a divorce record too, I said calmly, and I was the one who filed for it. Her face reddened, but she said nothing more. Finally, Jack, Sam's father, spoke up, trying to sound authoritative. It's not just about the money. You've damaged our reputation. How are you going to make this right? My father, who had been listening intently, finally responded, his voice steady and deliberate. Let's set aside the fact that you didn't invite us, the bride's parents, to the wedding. What you're asking for is financial compensation, correct? His calm, gray-haired presence seemed to unsettle them. They exchanged nervous glances. Jack attempted to regain control by raising his voice. It's not just about money, he said. You hurt our feelings. That's the issue here. But my father was unshaken. Marriage is a partnership between families. How do you explain disregarding ours and making decisions solely for your own convenience? His logical demeanor contrasted sharply with their flustered, self-serving arguments. Their voices grew weaker, and soon, they were sipping tea my mother had brought out, their earlier indignation fading. Just then, the doorbell rang again. Molly's husband, Henry, had arrived late. When he entered, his expression changed instantly upon seeing my father. He turned pale and began trembling. What's wrong, Henry? Molly asked, oblivious. Tell them off, like you always do. Henry stammered an apology instead. I sincerely apologize for everything. What are you doing? Jack barked, bewildered. I decided it was time to end the charade. Henry works for a subsidiary of my father's company, I explained. My father is the president. The revelation silenced the room. My father, unfazed, addressed them calmly. Let me clarify something. During her time with Sam, Emma covered all their living expenses, including the allowance Sam sent to you. Jack turned to Sam, disbelief etched on his face. Is that true? Sam hung his head, unable to deny it. The family devolved into bickering, their earlier bravado completely gone. Before leaving, I added, I also helped Sam find work in video production, but I won't be assisting him anymore. 6 months later, I encountered Sam one last time at the local family court. After months of mediation, most assets were returned to me, leaving Sam with only his video equipment. His professional and financial life had unraveled, forcing him to move back in with his parents, who now resented him. A year after our divorce, I focused on my career and taking over my father's company. At a colleague's wedding, I caught the bouquet tossed by the bride. What does that mean? A friend teased. I smiled softly. It means I've had enough of marriage. My dedication now is to my work. My name is Nia, and I live with my husband, Jack, and our daughter, Sarah. Together, we make a family of 3. Sarah is Jack's daughter from a previous relationship, which makes me her stepmother. Jack and I got married 5 years ago when Sarah was just 5 years old. In my 20s, I was diagnosed with a condition that made it impossible for me to have children. Until then, I had always dreamed of getting married and raising a family. But those dreams were crushed when my then-boyfriend's mother bluntly told me I should give up on marriage because of my condition. Influenced by her, my boyfriend ended our relationship. Their rejection left me feeling hopeless, and my desire for marriage faded completely. That's when I met Jack and Sarah. Sarah, who was 4 years old at the time, had gotten lost and was crying. I found her and helped her get to the police station, a scene that felt like something out of a drama. It was through this chance encounter that Jack and I met. Our relationship naturally blossomed into love, and eventually, we married and became a family. To my surprise, Sarah started calling me mom early on. Becoming a family happened more seamlessly than I could have imagined. I still vividly recall the warmth I felt when I held Sarah's hand that day at the police station. Jack has remained as kind and supportive as ever, and they both rescued me from my loneliness. I truly feel like Sarah is my own child, and it fills me with joy to watch her grow. However, Jack's mother was not as accepting. When I first met her, I could feel her scrutinizing me. Her sharp words still echo in my mind. To think someone would marry a woman with a child. Is she after my son's money? I had braced myself for some tension, but her blatant hostility caught me off guard. Jack, however, was furious. He grabbed my hand, ignored her protests, and quickly drove me away. I'm sorry, she's insane. You don't have to deal with her, he said, anger simmering in his voice. After that encounter, Jack shielded me from his mother, and we had no contact with her for years. Things changed 2 years ago when Jack's father fell ill and was hospitalized. We began seeing Jack's mother more often, and she seemed calmer, worn out even. I hoped our relationship might improve, but at Jack's father's funeral, her malice resurfaced. As relatives mourned, she smugly remarked, "Now I can live with my son. After this, I'll kick out that wife and find him someone who can give me a grandson. I don't need anything else as long as I have my son." Her cruel words silenced the room, and Jack, seething with anger, dragged her out. At the entrance, he confronted her. "If I'm here, you don't need anything else? Fine, I don't need you. Stay away from me and Nia or face the consequences." His voice was low but firm, and the relatives watched in stunned silence. That day marked a turning point. Jack's mother begged for forgiveness afterward, but Jack never wavered in his decision to cut ties with her. Despite these challenges, life moved forward. Sarah is now 10, busy with school and extracurricular activities. Inspired by her growth, I passed the employee exam at my part-time job and transitioned to full-time work. But just when our lives felt stable, a new disruption appeared. Daisy, a childhood friend of Jack's, recently divorced. Daisy moved back near Jack's mother's house and reached out to him. Jack was skeptical and visibly uncomfortable. "Daisy's known for her strong sense of justice," he explained, "but it's more about imposing her values on others than doing what's right." Jack told me stories of how Daisy's misguided interference had caused trouble in the past. She once revealed the location of a classmate who had escaped an abusive home, insisting they reconcile with their parents. Another time, she meddled in a friend's marriage, trying to reconcile them with an abusive partner, which led to chaos. Jack himself had been a target of her interference when she tried to mend his friendship with someone who had betrayed him, despite his clear desire to distance himself. Daisy's inability to see the harm in her actions was what made her truly unsettling. To her, family and relationships were sacred bonds that should never be severed. No matter the circumstances, she believed she was always doing the right thing, even as she left a trail of broken trust behind her. If I were to describe Daisy with a word, it might be idealistic. But there's nothing cute about her ideals. Honestly, she's the kind of person I'd rather avoid entirely. She likely twisted the truth to suit her narrative when speaking to my mother-in-law, who hasn't been in contact with relatives since the funeral. I'm sure Daisy has become her sounding board, listening to grievances and spreading tales of how I've supposedly wronged her. Daisy's sudden desire to see Jack was undoubtedly part of an attempt to reconcile him with his mother. Just hearing about it was exhausting. Daisy's boundless energy and misplaced meddling made me uneasy, and unfortunately, my fears were well-founded. One day, Daisy showed up unannounced at our house, declaring, "Your mom has collapsed. Come right now." Before Jack could fully process her words, she dragged him out the door. Left behind, my daughter and I were bewildered. As I began to calm down, irritation bubbled up inside me. Daisy had barged into our home without a proper greeting, avoiding even a glance in my direction. Still, concerned that something serious might have happened to my mother-in-law, I waited anxiously for Jack's call. 2 hours later, Jack returned, looking utterly drained. His expression was a mix of frustration and weariness. What happened? Did Mom really collapse? I asked, dreading the answer. Jack sighed heavily and shook his head. No, he replied. It was all a pretense. He recounted how Daisy had lectured him on misunderstandings and reconciliation, while my mother-in-law played the role of a weak, weeping victim, pretending to be deeply concerned about him and Sarah. She was pretending to be frail, crying about how much she misses Sarah and me, Jack said bitterly, but in reality, she just wanted to guilt-trip me. Daisy even brought up the idea of breaking up our family. He hesitated, his gaze dropping. She said you and Sarah were obstacles to Mom's happiness and that I should remarry, with Daisy. I froze. Let me guess, I said slowly. She thinks you two could raise Sarah together and give her the grandson she's always wanted? Jack's silence confirmed my worst fears. I clenched my fists. Does Daisy even have children? She had a child, Jack answered, his tone grim, but her ex-husband got custody. Mom and Daisy think we should all live together and play happy family. The thought of those two plotting against our family made my stomach churn. She knows our address now, I said, trying to stay calm. Should we move? Jack's expression softened as he saw the concern in my eyes. I know how hard you've worked to become a full-time employee, but nothing is more important than keeping our family safe. Even if moving means extra challenges, I'll do whatever it takes to protect you and Sarah. I'll follow you anywhere, I whispered, squeezing his hand tightly. We'll get through this together. A few days later, trouble struck at work, keeping me late into the evening. I texted Jack to let him know, but he was also tied up at work. Our daughter assured me she was fine, saying she would lock the door and go to bed. Still, I couldn't shake my worry as the hours dragged on. By the time the issue was resolved, it was well past 11 p.m. Rushing home, I found the front door slightly ajar. My heart dropped. Did Jack come home early? Did Sarah forget to lock it? Cautiously, I stepped inside, only to feel someone grab my arm and pull me into the closet near the entrance. Panic surged through me until I turned and saw Sarah, her small hand covering my mouth. Shoo, she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Don't make a sound. Confused, I nodded. Sarah slowly opened the closet door a crack, pointing toward the living room. There, my mother-in-law and Daisy were sitting, deep in conversation. My pulse quickened. How did they get in? How long have they been here? Huddled in the closet, Sarah whispered. I heard their voices and knew it wasn't you or Dad. I was scared, so I hid. My heart ached as I held her clammy hand, her fear palpable, peeking out. I strained to hear their conversation. They're probably out with that awful woman, my mother-in-law said with a sneer, dragging the poor child along to make a scene. It's disgusting, Daisy replied, but this might actually work in our favor. If we can prove she's neglecting her duties, you can push her out. Once she's gone, Jack can remarry, preferably someone like me, and finally give you a grandson. Exactly, my mother-in-law crowed. That woman is useless. She can take the girl and leave. Once she's gone, I'll cherish you as my real daughter-in-law. I felt a surge of anger, my mind racing with ways to confront them, but Sarah's trembling form kept me rooted in place. I couldn't risk leaving her alone, not with those two in the house. My phone vibrated silently in my pocket, a message from Jack saying he was downstairs. I quickly texted back, come quietly to the first room, don't make any noise. What's wrong? He replied. My hand shook as I typed, they're here. I quickly texted Jack, come home immediately. Within minutes, he arrived, his face peeking cautiously through the slightly open door. My daughter Sarah, still trembling, started to cry softly at the sight of him. Without a word, I placed a finger over my lips, signaling her to stay quiet, and gestured toward the living room where the intruders were. From the shadows, we could hear my mother-in-law and Daisy chatting, their laughter sharp and grating. They haven't come back yet, Daisy remarked. Maybe next time it'll be more impactful to show up at night. Indeed, my mother-in-law agreed, her tone smug, but no matter, we'll find a way to make them leave. Once Jack sees the evidence, he'll lose interest in that woman, then you can comfort him, and love will blossom. She waved her hand dramatically. These reproductions are so well done now, practically indistinguishable from the real thing. I'm so excited for the three of us to live together, me, you, and my son. This time, It's our turn. Daisy giggled. What if she's actually cheating? That would make this even easier. Their laughter made my blood boil, and before I could act, a loud crash echoed from the entrance. A vase had toppled to the floor. What was that? Daisy exclaimed. I'll check. But before she could move, the light suddenly went out, plunging the house into darkness. What's going on? My mother-in-law whispered in panic. In the pitch black, Jack stormed into the room, his voice booming. What are you doing here? The two women shrieked in fright, their bravado evaporating. Then, a small voice, Sarah's, called out softly, Mom? The sound sent them into further hysteria, convinced now they were being haunted. As thunder cracked outside, illuminating the room for a split second, I saw Sarah's anxious face. Anger surged through me, and I could no longer contain myself. Standing, I slowly slid open the door to the living room. The two intruders, disoriented and terrified, didn't notice me at first. When I stepped closer, I said coldly, You've gone too far. You've hurt my family, frightened my daughter, and invaded our home. I will never forgive you. As I spoke, I shone a flashlight under my chin, casting eerie shadows across my face. A well-timed lightning strike lit the room once more, and both women screamed, collapsing onto the floor. Nia, please forgive us, my mother-in-law wailed. You think this is a game? I snapped, my voice shaking with fury. Get out, now. Still crying, the two scrambled out of the house, tripping over themselves in their haste. Jack flipped the light switch, and the room brightened again. They've left, he confirmed. I turned off the flashlight, exhaustion washing over me. Jack gave a faint smile. They probably thought you were a ghost or something. Maybe, I replied dryly, though I doubt that will stop them for long. Sarah clung to me, her voice small. Mom, I was so scared. I hugged her tightly. I'm so sorry, sweetie, it's over now. Jack knelt beside us, his eyes glistening. I'm so sorry for what they've done to you both. Later, we pieced together their twisted scheme. Daisy and my mother-in-law had fabricated evidence, fake photos, and forged investigation reports, claiming I was unfaithful. They planned to present it to Jack, hoping to manipulate him into divorcing me so Daisy could take my place. Daisy's desperation stemmed from her own failures. Divorced after an affair, she'd lost custody of her child and alienated everyone around her. She'd hoped to use Jack as a lifeline, dragging him into her mess, but her manipulations only solidified our resolve. The aftermath of that night brought its own strange consequences. My mother-in-law, convinced I was the ghost of Jack's first wife, avoided us entirely. Neighbors reported her hanging talismans and chanting sutras to ward off evil. Much to their annoyance, we decided it was time to move, leaving their chaos behind for good. The day before the move, Daisy made one final attempt. She banged on our door, her hair disheveled, screaming, You've ruined my life. I can't even see my son anymore. Why do you get to be so comfortable as a stepmother? I blocked her path, calm but firm. If families can work things out through discussion, as you claim, why haven't you resolved things with your ex-husband and his family? If even your own child doesn't want to see you, perhaps it's time to reflect on your actions. Daisy's face reddened. You've taken everything from me. I loved Jack. Jack appeared behind me, his expression cold. Enough, Daisy, this has to stop. You don't love me, you just want someone to clean up your mess. I'm calling the police if you don't leave. Her voice cracked with desperation. But I'm a good person. You're being deceived by her. Jack's laugh was dry. Good people don't need to declare it. Others can see it for themselves. Faced with his rejection, Daisy fled in tears. As I held Sarah close, she looked up at me with wide eyes. Mom, I think of you as my real mom. Do you think of me as your real daughter? Tears welled up in my eyes. Of course I do, sweetheart. I'll always protect you. The next day, we moved to our new home, a fresh start for our family, free from the shadows of manipulation and deceit. Together, we vowed to guard the happiness we had fought so hard to preserve. Hi, I'm Freya, a 33-year-old working mom. My husband, Sam, is the same age, and together we have a lively 5-year-old daughter named Emma. She's full of energy and curiosity, but there's one challenge we face. Emma has a severe egg allergy. It's frustrating because so many delicious foods, like fluffy omelets, are off limits for her. Thankfully, Emma is incredibly understanding of her condition and careful about what she eats, which is a huge relief. Today, we're visiting my parents, who just returned from an overseas trip. Grandma, Grandpa, we missed you so much, Emma exclaimed as she ran to greet them. Grandpa beamed. We missed you too, sweetheart. Look, I brought back some special keepsakes. And I made lots of dishes with the ingredients we brought back, Grandma added, setting down a spread of colorful plates. Yay, Emma cheered. Grandma's cooking is the best. My parents have always loved traveling, and they enjoy sharing unique ingredients from their adventures. Emma is just as excited to try new things, even though she has to be cautious. Luckily, my parents are well aware of her allergy, so I can relax when we're with them. What's this? I've never had it before. It's delicious, Emma said, munching on something new. I'm so glad you like it, Grandma smiled. Eat up. The warm family atmosphere made me wish Sam's side of the family was just as easy to be around. Why the sigh, Freya? Did something happen with them? Grandpa asked, concern in his voice. I hesitated before explaining. Sam's sister, Lisa, keeps ignoring Emma's egg allergy. She serves dishes with eggs every time we visit, even after being reminded repeatedly. Grandma's face darkened. Give me her address. I'll make her wish she'd never been born. Mom, calm down. I laughed nervously, trying to diffuse the tension. Sam's already handled it. He confronted his sister and made it clear we're keeping our distance from his family for Emma's safety. Good, Grandpa grumbled. No one messes with our little Emma. Despite Sam's efforts to distance us, trouble wasn't entirely behind us. A few days later, a package arrived at our house. Hey, something came in the mail. It's from your parents' place, Sam called out, frowning. He treated the package like it was a ticking time bomb, carefully opening it on the balcony. Inside was a box of treats, and a note from Lisa. These should be okay for Emma, right? The note read. Sam's face turned red with anger. This is harassment, he snapped. I sighed, trying to stay calm. Lisa probably thinks she's doing something nice. If she wanted to be mean, she'd send something with hidden eggs instead of clearly labeled egg cakes. That's what makes it worse, Sam grumbled. She expects gratitude for this nonsense. Food isn't guilty of anything, so let's enjoy it, Emma chimed in. But Mom, can we bake a cake together next weekend instead? Her forgiving nature warmed my heart, though I wished Lisa could learn from Emma's kindness. Unfortunately, Lisa didn't stop there. A few days later, she showed up at our house uninvited. What are you doing here? Go home, Sam said bluntly, blocking the doorway. Don't be mean. I came all this way just to see you, Lisa replied, laughing as she pushed past him. She turned to Emma. Oh, Emma, you haven't changed a bit. Still picky about your food? Still as clueless as ever. I see, Sam retorted. Do you even understand what an allergy is? Lisa ignored him and pulled out a bag of cookies. These are egg-free, so they're safe for Emma. Emma looked skeptical. Are you sure? These look like the cookies from that shop near the station, the ones with eggs. Lisa smirked. Oh no, you caught me, she said, as if it were a joke. But come on, Freya, you should teach Emma to eat eggs. She's just being picky. There's a difference between being picky and having a life-threatening allergy, I snapped. When will you grow up? Allergies aren't a joke. Lisa shrugged, still unapologetic. Kids these days, so sensitive. Sam stepped forward, his voice cold. Get out of our house, now. As Lisa left, I hugged Emma tightly, grateful for her resilience despite everything. While Lisa's actions frustrated me, Emma's ability to rise above it reminded me that kindness and understanding are the best ways to face such challenges. I'm just trying to help her get over her dislike for eggs so she won't struggle later, Lisa said smugly. I shook my head, trying to stay calm. Lisa, this isn't about disliking eggs. Allergies are a medical condition. When allergens enter the body, they trigger severe reactions, like hay fever, but far more dangerous. Pollen might cause sneezing and a runny nose, but for Emma, eggs can cause rashes, swelling, or even make it hard for her to breathe. If she ended up in the hospital because of this, you could be held responsible. Lisa rolled her eyes. Please, there's no way eating eggs could make her stop breathing. Allergies are just an overreaction people believe in these days. Stop lying and just eat eggs. Sam clenched his fists. So you're saying you don't believe in food allergies at all? Not a bit, Lisa replied, crossing her arms. And don't act like you're above this. Weren't you picky about carrots? Yeah, I didn't like carrots as a kid, but I still ate them when told to. Sam snapped. This isn't about preference. Emma has a medical condition. Do you even understand the difference? Emma stayed quiet, holding my hand tightly, as Lisa continued her tirade. But before she could say another word, the door swung open, and my parents stepped inside. Emma, we're here to help, Grandpa declared dramatically. Lisa blinked in confusion. Who are these people? My parents, I said, relieved. Perfect timing. Grandpa's face darkened as he addressed Lisa. So, you're the rude aunt who can't tell the difference between picky eating and a life-threatening allergy. Don't call me aunt, Lisa began, but Grandma cut her off. Silence, you endangered our precious Emma's life, and you think you can brush it off? People die from allergic reactions. Haven't you watched the news? Thousands of people die every year from accidentally consuming allergens. But no, you think forcing someone to eat something they're allergic to is somehow helpful. Lisa's confidence faltered as Grandma placed a small package in front of her. We brought you a gift, Grandma said sweetly. Lisa's eyes lit up. A gift? Really? Let me see. Grandpa smirked. Here you go, souvenir sparrow crackers, larva nuts, and cricket cookies. It's all edible. Lisa recoiled in horror. What? That's disgusting. There's no way I'm eating that. Grandma raised an eyebrow. Why not? You said you don't have any food allergies, and you're always lecturing others about being too picky. Go on, try it. Lisa stammered, backing away. I can't. Please, spare me. Grandpa shook his head. After everything you've said to a 5-year-old child, you're afraid to eat a few bugs? You won't die if you don't eat them, but forcing her to eat eggs could kill her. Get out of here, Lisa, and don't come back. If you do, Grandma added with a grin, I'll prepare a full bug feast just for you. Lisa fled, pale and flustered, muttering apologies as she hurried away. She never returned, and that was the end of our contact with Sam's family. We cut ties completely after that incident. At first, Sam's parents didn't believe we were serious, but when we skipped the holidays, they started to blame Lisa for ruining their relationship with their son and granddaughter. They sent apology letters and messages, but nothing came from Lisa herself, so we ignored them. Eventually, Sam blocked their numbers, and we moved to a new home. Since then, life has been peaceful and drama-free. One afternoon, Emma beamed as she greeted my parents. Grandma, Grandpa, I missed you. We missed you too, sweetie, Grandma said, hugging her. And guess what? I made your favorite pudding. Emma's eyes lit up. Pudding? Yay, but it's egg-free, right? Of course, Grandma replied proudly. Who do you think you're talking to? I can make pudding with milk, beans, or even pumpkin for a fun twist. Wow, can you teach me the recipe later? I want to make it for you, too, Emma said excitedly. Grandma smiled warmly. I'll send you the recipe, and we'll bake it together next weekend. As we all sat down to enjoy the pudding, Grandpa chuckled. Just so you know, this isn't cricket-filled pudding. Phew, I thought you were serious. Emma giggled, and the room filled with laughter. Cooking together in peace, surrounded by love, was a blessing we all cherished. Life without unnecessary drama was the sweetest treat of all. Oh, I see, Jane said, her voice loud enough to make the other parents glance in our direction. Your daughter's smart, huh? Don't get the wrong idea, though. What do you mean by that? I asked, already bracing myself for her words. Jane smirked. Even if your child is smarter than mine right now, it doesn't matter. Our children's futures were decided the moment they were born. Let's be honest, you probably don't even have the money for middle school entrance exams. Money isn't the issue, I replied firmly. We haven't even thought that far yet. They're still in primary school. Jane's laugh was harsh and dismissive. No matter how hard your daughter tries, she'll only end up average. My Lily was born with advantages your Sarah could never hope to reach. It's just reality, you should understand that by now. Before I could respond, Sarah called out, Mom, watch me answer this question. I smiled at her enthusiasm, but Jane's daughter, Lily, ran over to her mother instead. Mom, did you see how well I did? Jane frowned. Lily, if you're studying so hard, why aren't you always number one in class? You need to focus more, especially at home. I'm sorry, Lily muttered, her face falling. Jane turned back to me. Honestly, that woman is unpleasant, she said, as if Lily couldn't hear her. The school event eventually ended, and Jane approached me again. Emily, have you lost weight? She asked with a smirk. A little, I admitted, though her tone made me wary. Oh, don't get the wrong idea. Your clothes look cheap, and your complexion is terrible. Are you even eating properly? I swallowed my frustration. I've just had a lot going on. Jane's lack of sensitivity annoyed me, but I let it slide. Instead, I watched as the teacher praised Sarah for solving a difficult problem. Jane sighed loudly. Public schools really are full of surprises, she muttered. The conversation took a turn when she brought up my divorce. So, you're raising your child alone? That explains your appearance, she said, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. Your child might do okay if she works hard, but it's unfortunate she wasn't born into a better family. Imagine the potential she could have had. I clenched my fists. but before I could reply, Jane excused herself, leaving behind more insults about my poor lifestyle. That evening, as Sarah and I returned to my parents' modest, single-story house, Jane and Lily appeared at the gate. "Oh, this is your home?" Jane said, scanning the property with a sneer. "Lily, don't go near them. Poor people like this might rub off on you." "Poor?" Lily asked curiously. "That's right. People like this live in rundown houses and make no effort to improve themselves. You don't want to end up like them." Anger surged through me, but I held back. "It's one thing to insult me," I said, my voice shaking, "but I won't tolerate you mocking my family or my daughter." Jane scoffed. "Oh, please, your husband left you, and now you're stuck in this old house. It's no wonder your daughter is destined to struggle." At that moment, Sarah tugged on my hand. "Mom, can we go inside?" I nodded, ignoring Jane's taunts as we retreated to the safety of our home. A few weeks later, Jane's world took an unexpected turn. At the amusement park, Sarah and I were enjoying a rare outing when Jane approached us, flaunting her branded clothes. "You've got some nerve showing up here," she said, "with your cheap clothes. I bet one of my accessories costs more than your monthly income." "Jane, it's better to wear something comfortable when you're walking around all day," I replied calmly. Jane laughed. "Oh, are you jealous of my branded items?" Before I could respond, a man appeared beside her husband, Tom. "Jane, who is this?" he asked, looking confused. "Oh, just a mother friend," she said dismissively, but Tom's eyes narrowed as he recognized me. "Wait a minute," he said, his expression changing. "Aren't you?" "Yes," I said with a smile. "Nice to meet you again. I recently remarried. This is my husband, John." John stepped forward, shaking Tom's hand. "Pleasure to meet you." Jane's smug demeanor vanished instantly. "You remarried? To him?" she stammered. "How?" Tom's face paled. "John is the president of Big Spoon Foods Holdings," he said, his voice shaking. "Correct," John said calmly, "and after Emily started working at my company, we got to know each other better. She's remarkable." Jane's confidence crumbled as Tom glared at her. "Have you been rude to the president's wife?" he demanded. I didn't mean to," Jane stammered. "I was just lying, as usual," Sarah said suddenly, her voice clear and strong. "You always lie about me, too." Tom turned to his daughter. "Lily, is that true?" Lily nodded. "Mom never lets me play or have friends. She only cares about studying." "I hate it, Dad. I want to live with you." Tom's expression hardened. "Jane, I've had enough of your selfishness. We're getting a divorce." "What?" Jane shouted, her voice rising in panic. "You can't be serious." But Tom didn't waver. He took Lily's hand and walked away, leaving Jane standing alone. "My name is Amanda, and I currently live with my in-laws, Ben and Susan. Life with them is anything but peaceful." "Can't you even clean properly? Having a young wife with no common sense is such a burden," Susan often says. "From morning to night, she hurls such comments at me." At first, she pretended to talk to herself, making sure I could still hear her. Now, she says it straight to my face without hesitation. "You really are useless." My sister-in-law Jessica is no different. She mirrors Susan's attitude, bullying me with the same disdain. Before my marriage, they were nothing like this. Both Susan and Jessica had been warm and welcoming. "From now on, we're family, so don't hesitate to speak your mind," they said. "That's right. I'm so happy to have a new sister," Jessica added. Their kindness filled a void I'd carried for as long as I could remember. My parents died in an accident when I was 5, leaving me orphaned and eventually adopted. My adoptive mother was loving and raised me well, but there was always an emptiness I couldn't shake. Even at 21, I struggled to understand love or connection fully. Marriage was something I thought I'd never pursue. Then I met Jack. For the first time, I felt warmth and a sense of belonging. When Susan and Jessica spoke kindly to me, I thought maybe, just maybe, this was the family I'd longed for. So, I had no hesitation moving in with them. But everything changed once we started living together. Susan and Jessica began treating me like a servant, speaking to me harshly. I tried talking to Jack about it several times. "Mom and Jessica don't mean any harm," he'd say. "You're just too sensitive and take it the wrong way. Try being more positive, like them." From his perspective, I must have seemed frustrating, always crying and passive. But his dismissiveness stung. I knew it wasn't fair, but I struggled to speak up. Since childhood, I'd had a habit of reading the moods of adults around me. When they scolded me, I'd shrink back, afraid of being disliked or kicked out. That fear stayed with me. making it hard to assert myself, even when I knew I should. Instead, I bottled up my frustration, growing bitter. 6 months after the wedding, my heart was close to breaking. Worrying wouldn't solve anything, and Susan and Jessica's behavior only escalated. Then one day, Jack's younger sister Emma came to visit. Much younger than Jack, Emma had a straightforward and kind demeanor. Despite her cute appearance, she had a sharp tongue and a good heart. Unlike Susan and Jessica, she was always kind to me, which seemed to unsettle them. "Amanda, you've lost weight," Emma said, frowning. "Did Mom and Jessica say something mean to you again?" Jessica jumped in with a sharp tone. "What are you talking about? What have we ever done to her?" Emma's eyes narrowed. "Well, you and Mom act nice in front of Jack, but behind his back, you're nasty. My brother's clueless, so I worry." "Mind your own business. I'm just trying to educate her as her older sister," Jessica snapped. "Wow, how condescending," Emma replied coolly. "By the way, are you still unemployed?" Jessica's face turned red. "I just haven't found a job that matches my abilities," she shot back before storming off. Jessica had been jobless since graduating college. She helped with housework occasionally but didn't do much else. On the other hand, Emma had been living independently since college and worked for a top company. "I'm sorry, Amanda," Emma said, turning back to me, "but based on Jessica's reaction, I can guess what's really going on in this house. Don't worry, I'm staying here tonight. I'll handle them." "What do you mean by handle them?" I asked, feeling nervous but hopeful. That evening, dinner was tense. Jack was working late, leaving just me, Susan, Jessica, and Emma at the table. As usual, Susan and Jessica started picking on me. "You still can't cook properly, can you? When will you learn our family's taste?" Susan sneered. "If Dad were here, he'd say he couldn't eat this awful food," Jessica added. "Poor Jack, marrying someone like this. You didn't grow up with your mother's cooking, so this is the best you can do," Susan chimed in, her tone dripping with contempt. Emma, who had been quietly eating beside me, finally spoke up. "Our family's taste? Wasn't it mostly instant meals or store-bought food? Dad never complained about that, and he certainly didn't lose his temper over it." Susan glared. "What are you talking about? You left this family, so stay out of it." Emma didn't back down. "And you've never had a proper job, so why act superior now?" Susan was furious, but couldn't find a retort. Emma's bluntness silenced both her and Jessica. For the first time in months, I felt like someone was truly on my side. "I'm just trying to teach Amanda who can't even clean properly," Susan sneered. Emma, ever calm, shot back. "How can you complain about cleaning when your room is a mess? Maybe it's because you've never had a proper job. That's why you push all the housework onto Amanda and then have the audacity to criticize her." "Enough," Jessica shouted, her face flushing with anger. "You've always been so mouthy. I don't care about your complaints." Emma didn't flinch, repeating her point in a steady voice. This only made Susan and Jessica angrier. Their faces were flushed red with fury. "Get out. Talking to you is driving me crazy," Susan yelled. "Seriously," Jessica added, "every time you come home, you just stir up trouble. How dare you take her side over your own family?" Emma's voice turned icy. "That's because I'm the one who works, pays taxes, and takes care of myself. I don't go around being mean to people just because I don't like them." Before the argument could escalate further, Jack walked in, looking bewildered at the tense atmosphere. "Oh, Emma, you're back," he said hesitantly. Susan rushed toward him, but Emma blocked her path, standing firmly in front of her brother. "What's going on?" Jack asked. "Hey, Jack," Emma began, her tone serious. "Have you really not noticed what these two are doing to Amanda?" "What are you talking about?" he asked, frowning. Emma crossed her arms. "How could you not see that your wife is getting skinnier and skinnier, or are you just ignoring it?" I mean," Jack stammered. Jessica interrupted with a sharp voice. "Don't say things like that, Emma." Emma shot her a glare before turning back to Jack. "You can't say you didn't notice. You've always been like this, turning a blind eye because it's easier that way. You saw Mom giving everything to Jessica and nothing to me when we were younger. You saw the other nasty things she did, too, but you never spoke up. Now you think what they're doing to Amanda is just a squabble between women. It's not." Jack hesitated. "But Mom and Jessica are just looking out for Amanda." "Really?" Emma interrupted, her voice sharp. "If you don't believe me, listen to this." She held up her phone, playing a recording of Susan and Jessica bullying me earlier that day. "What is this?" Jessica shouted. "How dare you record us?" Emma ignored her. "Listen carefully, Jack. This is what your beloved mom and sister have been doing to your wife." Jack's face turned pale as he listened. For the first time, he looked at me with something resembling understanding. Emma turned to me and said gently, "I'll handle this tonight. Please, stay at my place. I'll contact you in the morning." I hesitated, but her firm gaze reassured me. "Don't worry," she added. "The one who really needs to hear this is my brother. If he had stood up for you from the beginning, none of this would have happened." She guided me out of the house, shielding me from Susan and Jessica's glares, and put me in a taxi. While I was grateful, I felt ashamed of how powerless I was. The next morning, Emma called me. "I'm sorry about last night, Amanda. Did you sleep well?" "Yes," I replied hesitantly. "Is everything okay now?" "Everything's fine," she assured me. "My stupid brother is completely devastated, but I gave him a good scolding. From now on, if anything happens, come to me immediately." Feeling hopeful, I returned to the house, but as I stepped inside, Susan and Jessica were waiting for me at the door, their expressions filled with rage. "How dare you humiliate us?" Susan shouted. "That's right," Jessica added. "Being disowned by my sister is the ultimate insult, and it's all your fault, but Jack is still on our side." Their anger was even more intense than before, and the small hope I'd carried quickly turned to fear. "Come with us," Susan ordered. They grabbed my arms, dragging me inside and throwing me to the center of the room. "Look," Susan said, pointing to the table. I saw a divorce paper lying there. "We downloaded it this morning," Jessica smirked. "Jack's part is already filled out. Sign it now." "Did Jack really fill this out himself?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Of course," Susan snapped. "We don't need a rebellious wife like you. My daughter and I both agree on that." I was in shock. Was Jack really okay with this? Did he truly sign this? My mind raced, but I couldn't recall what his handwriting even looked like. "Why are you hesitating?" Jessica said impatiently. "Hurry up and sign it. And don't expect any alimony. You're useless and humiliated us by using Emma against us. If anything, we should be asking for compensation." "That's right," Susan added smugly. "We'll let you off the hook if you just sign the papers and cut ties with Jack." Summoning my courage, I said, "I'll call Jack to confirm this." I reached into my bag for my phone, but Jessica snatched it away. "Didn't I tell you? Jack feels the same way, so there's no need to confirm anything, just sign it," she barked, shoving a pen into my hand and forcing it toward the paper. Tears streamed down my face as I reluctantly signed my part. "Well done," Susan said, her tone triumphant. "Let's go submit it right away." They shoved me into a taxi and took me to the town hall, forcing me to submit the divorce papers in their presence. "Finally, we're done with you," Jessica sneered. "What a relief. Now the three of us can live happily together." "You don't even have a home to go back to, do you?" Susan mocked. "After all, orphans are hopeless, no manners, no common sense. What a waste of time it was living with you. But at least we're free now." As their cruel laughter faded, I stood there, feeling completely shattered and abandoned. I stood frozen in front of the town hall, stunned. When I came to my senses, a wave of horror washed over me. I had actually submitted the divorce papers. Jessica had taken my phone, leaving me with no way to contact anyone. My mind raced. What should I do? Suddenly, a number I had memorized long ago popped into my head. Desperate, I hurried to a nearby payphone, dialing the digits with trembling fingers. The moment I heard the familiar voice on the other end, the tears I'd been holding back poured out uncontrollably. The person on the phone calmly reassured me, "Stay where you are, we're coming." About 10 minutes later, a car pulled up in front of me. Amanda. The people who got out of the car were my adoptive parents, Emily and Brian. The moment I saw Emily's warm face, I broke down completely, clinging to her as sobs racked my body. She gently held me and stroked my back, whispering words of comfort. As we drove away, I explained everything to them. Emily's tone was firm yet gentle when she scolded me. "Amanda, you should have contacted us sooner." Brian reached over, resting a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "We can't let this go. It's our turn to step in." They exchanged a brief, determined look, then made a phone call. After hanging up, Brian said, "Let's go." I hesitated. "Where are we going?" Emily turned to me with a confident smile. "To your in-laws' house." Panic gripped me. I don't think I can face them." "Don't worry, Amanda," Emily said, patting my hand. "Just be confident. We're here for you." When we arrived at the house, I could barely move, frozen with fear. Emily gently patted my back again as Brian rang the doorbell. The door opened, and Jack came running. To my astonishment, he dropped to his knees in front of Brian. "I'm so sorry," Jack said. his voice shaking with emotion. "What are you doing?" Susan demanded, stepping forward. "Yeah, what's going on?" Jessica added. "Quiet." Jack's voice was firm, silencing them. He looked up at my adoptive parents, his face filled with regret. "These are Amanda's parents." "So what?" Susan scoffed. "Apologizing to your wife's parents on your knees? How pathetic." Jack turned to her, his expression cold. "Silence. These are not just any parents. This man is the president of the company I work for and the largest landowner in this area." "What? No way." Susan and Jessica gasped, their faces draining of color. "Yes, way," Jack said, standing. "My father-in-law's word alone could cost me my job, and he owns most of the land in this area, including the land this house is built on." My adoptive father's calm yet commanding voice cut through their shock. "Jack, I'm sorry to have called you out of work for this. Your boss and I agreed it was important to talk in person." "Of course, sir," Jack stammered. "This is about what my mom and sister have done to Amanda, right? I was planning to talk to you about it today." "Today?" Emily raised an eyebrow. "Did your mother not tell you what happened this morning?" Jack's confusion deepened. "No, what happened this morning?" Susan and Jessica began to speak over each other, their voices frantic. "It's nothing, just a misunderstanding." "Quiet," Brian said sharply. "This morning, your mother and sister forced my daughter to sign divorce papers and submit them to the town hall." "What?" Jack's voice cracked with disbelief. Emma arrived just then, stepping into the entryway. "Sorry I'm late." "Emma?" Susan's face turned livid. "What are you doing here?" Emma ignored her, walking over to my parents. She greeted Brian respectfully. "I'm sorry to have involved you in this, but when Amanda told me what happened, I knew I had to call you." Brian nodded. "You did the right thing. We'll handle this." Jack, still reeling, stammered, "Please, come in. Let's discuss this properly." Despite Susan and Jessica's protests, Jack ushered us into the living room. He turned to Brian, his face pale with shame. "I'm truly sorry for my mother and sister's behavior," Jack said, bowing deeply. "I'm ashamed of myself as well. I promise to protect Amanda from now on." Brian and I exchanged a glance, both puzzled by Jack's sincerity. "Jack," Brian said evenly, "do you really not know what happened this morning?" Jack hesitated, looking between us. I don't. What do you mean?" Susan and Jessica tried to interject, but Brian's sharp glare silenced them. "This morning," Brian continued, his voice firm, "your mother and sister forced Amanda to sign divorce papers and submit them. They made her believe you had filled them out yourself." Jack's eyes widened in shock. He turned to his mother and sister. "Is this true?" "No, of course not," Susan stammered. "It was just a joke," Jessica added hastily, "to teach her a lesson." Brian's voice cut through their excuses like a knife. "Enough. You coerced her into signing and submitting the papers. Admit it." Susan and Jessica finally fell silent, their faces pale. Jack's shoulders slumped as he turned to me, tears welling in his eyes. "Amanda, I had no idea." He clenched his fists, trembling with anger and regret. "I was planning to apologize to you today," he continued. "Emma made me realize how much I've failed you. I wanted to make things right, to leave this house and start over with you as a couple." He turned to my adoptive parents, bowing deeply once again. "I'm sorry, I failed my wife and let this happen. Please, help me make it right." I stood in front of the town hall, stunned. As the gravity of my actions hit me, I realized with horror that I had submitted the divorce papers. My hands trembled, and tears blurred my vision. Jessica had taken my phone, leaving me helpless. I was ready to apologize, to beg Jack to start over, even if he told me he wanted the divorce, because I truly loved him. But why? Why had it come to this? Before I could spiral further, I remembered a phone number, one I had memorized long ago. I hurried to a nearby payphone, dialing with trembling fingers. When the familiar voice answered, I broke down. The tears I had been holding back poured out, and my words spilled incoherently. "Stay where you are," the voice reassured me gently. "We're coming." Not long after, a car pulled up. My adoptive parents, Emily and Brian, stepped out, their faces filled with concern. "Amanda," Emily said softly as she approached me. The moment I saw her, I fell into her arms, sobbing uncontrollably. They brought me into the car, and as we drove, I explained everything. Emily's scolding was gentle, but firm. "You should have come to us sooner, Amanda." I didn't want to trouble you," I stammered. Brian glanced at me through the rearview mirror, his voice steady. "You're our daughter. It's our turn to step in." After a brief phone call, we drove straight to my in-laws' house. I felt paralyzed by fear. I don't think I can face them, I whispered. Emily held my hand. We're here for you, just be confident. When Jack opened the door, he surprised everyone by dropping to his knees in front of Brian. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice thick with emotion. What are you doing? Susan snapped. Yeah, what's going on? Jessica chimed in. Quiet. Jack's voice was sharp as he turned to face them. Mom, sis, you didn't know who Amanda's parents were, did you? If you had, I doubt you'd have bullied her the way you did. I thought you were just ignorant. Now I see it was something worse, disgusting cruelty. Jessica tried to laugh it off. You're kidding, right? She probably told you about her parents to win you over. You're wrong. Emma stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. Amanda's background has nothing to do with this. I stood by her because of you too, your disgusting behavior. Don't try to shift the blame. The argument spiraled until Brian intervened. Enough, let's discuss this properly. Once inside, Brian revealed what Susan and Jessica had done, how they had forced me to sign and submit the divorce papers. Jack was visibly shaken, his face pale with disbelief. Is this true? He demanded, looking at his mother and sister. It was just a joke, Jessica tried to explain. To teach her a lesson, Susan added. Enough, Jack roared, silencing them. He turned to me, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. Amanda, I had no idea. I was planning to apologize today, to leave this toxic house and start over with you. I love you. Brian spoke up, his voice measured. If you're serious about protecting Amanda, are you willing to cut ties with your mother and sister? Yes, Jack said without hesitation. Cut ties? Susan exclaimed. You'd abandon us for her? Yes, Jack replied firmly, because Amanda is my wife, and I've failed her for too long. Emily touched my arm gently. Amanda, what do you want to do? I couldn't speak, overwhelmed by everything. I stayed silent. Emily turned to Jack. If you mean what you say, come to our house tonight, we'll talk then. That night, Jack came to my parents' house, and true to his word, he cut ties with Susan and Jessica. When they began harassing us, they were repeatedly turned away by the police. One night, they shattered a window trying to break into our home. That was the last straw. They were arrested, and with no one to bail them out, they remained in custody. With that chapter of our lives behind us, Jack and I moved into a small apartment. Slowly, we began to rebuild our relationship and enjoy life as newlyweds. Jack has been attentive and kind, standing by my side through everything. As for my adoptive parents, I no longer call them foster parents. They're my real mom and dad. Their love and support filled an emptiness I hadn't even realized I carried. I've learned to express my feelings and let others in, a lesson Emma helped me see. Life isn't perfect, but it's ours, and for that, I'm deeply grateful.